We will officially call this City of Manvel workshop to order here at 5 p.m. We have a few items on the agenda tonight. The first one that we have is a presentation by Miss Amy on the Bay Area Houston Transportation Group, otherwise known as BayTran. So Amy, if you'd like to come forward, and Amy and I have known each other for a few years now. They're an organization that, the way I would say it is, operates somewhat similar to like a TML organization where they provide a lot of information, advocacy, luncheons, connections, and as a city, if we wanted to consider joining the organization, she wants to share a little bit about what they do and what they have to offer. So, Amy, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate y'all's time and having me come and present and share a little bit about what we do. So, as the Mayor said, we are the Bay Area Houston Transportation Partnership. We're a membership-based organization comprised of municipalities, counties, and then civil engineering firms and consulting firms. And we hold networking events to bring you all together to help form public-private partnerships to get your infrastructure built for your communities. I also sit on the Transportation Advisory Committee at HGAC. That is the last step before it goes to the Transportation Policy Council for approval. Our mission is to enhance regional mobility. Our vision is to be Texas's leading regional transportation advocacy organization, and our core values are safety, collaboration, advocacy, adaptability, stewardship, and integrity. There we go next. Oops. There we go. This is our board here. You can see we're comprised of people that are in the transportation industry, transit services, as well as mayors, council, and other organizations. County officials as well, and then our civil engineering firms and consulting firms.
And Council, this presentation is in our agenda packets as well.
We represent 4 counties: Galveston, Brazoria, Chambers, and Harris. Over 60 communities, 2.5 million residents, 3,700 square miles. As you all know, the region is home to the Port of Houston, and about 27% of the GDP of what Texas is now the 8th largest economy in the world. So there's a lot of freight and commuters trying to get around our region. Like I said, our members are comprised of this. We are funded fully by membership and event revenue. In the 1990, we were actually created in January 1st of 1990 to promote and advocate for and work with large businesses to help their commuters, their business people get different ways to work versus taking one car or one person for one car. And when that grant ran out and that program was not renewed by the federal government, our board wanted to stay an active organization advocating for the region and improving mobility, and so we moved to a fully membership and event-based revenue model. Some of the benefits of membership, as the mayor said, is agency coordination, advocacy and education, business development, and transportation management. Last year, we started an education initiative. We've learned from our civil engineers that they are having a hard time finding engineers for the future. And so we partnered with BayHep and Dickinson ISD, Pasadena ISD, and San Jacinto College, and came up with a committee for the recruitment of an engineering workforce. And we currently have 10 teams in Dickinson and Pasadena ISD that are working through the CTE programs there and building tiny homes. Those tiny homes are going to make their way to our Top Golf tournament on April 3rd and be judged by civil engineers based on the rubric in which it was formed. And we hope to award the top 2 team students scholarships, as well as make donations to the respective education foundations for the next year's students to have some funding for their projects. Advocacy, we're helping advocate at the local, state, HGAC, or our Metropolitan Planning Organization level, as well as with TxDOT and federally. You can see here are some pictures from some events we had. I was invited to the first Clear Lanes ribbon cutting summer before last, and then the other picture is with Mark Williams with TxDOT and Chuck Wemple at HGAC and some of our board members and other HGAC members there at the Southeast Texas Transportation Summit, which is an event that we partner with BAHEP and Economic Alliance Houston Port Region to do biannually. Federally, we also advocate for the Texas Coastal Project and advocating that the GOO and other local entities work with this organization to get our coastal barrier built and constructed properly so that we don't impede economic development or the port being able to process ships and that type of thing if the gate is in service. Always like to advocate for Vision Zero Texas for TxDOT. As you guys know, I'm sure, or maybe you don't know, I believe it was November 7th or 11th of 2000 was the last time that there was a death-free day on Texas roadways. So just want people to be mindful when they're driving to pay attention to driving and not your cell phone or other things.
Okay, and then as I talked about, part of the reason why we're needing more engineers is there's been more and more money put into the transportation budgets over the last couple cycles. So we need more engineers to build those projects. We also follow all of the statewide long-range transportation plans. We participate in public comment on our members' behalf and stay on top of those things that are going on. State Highway 99, Grand Parkway, I'm sure you all are very familiar with that project. We, along with some folks from Alvin and Leak City, went to the Texas Transportation Commission 4 years ago and advocated this project be put back into the UTP, and we were so excited to see the next cycle. They had a beautiful picture of segments A, B, and C, the last three to be complete that full loop, third loop, I guess, around Houston, which provides for more evacuation for us in the east and west. And then we're advocating for funding for State Highway 225 and I-610 bridge, which is a critical corridor for the port, and also a lot of other smaller communities in that area, and it is in need of repair. There are a few projects upcoming, but the entire thing needs to be redone. We've also been a voice for Pelican Island Bridge. I don't know if you all heard that was hit a couple times now over the last few years, and the bridge is past its useful lifetime. So we're working with the municipalities there to make sure TxDOT and other organizations are stepping up for funding to get that project completed. A fun project we were asked to come to the table and advocate for is a water taxi and trolley concept that some folks in the Clear Lake Shores and Taylor Lake Village area came up with. So this is actually working its way into the RTP as we speak, and hopefully to get a study that was done in 2008 updated. Into the future, we will continue to advocate for the completion of Grand Parkway and the widening of 146, State Highway 225, Beltway 8 direct connectors, the widening of I-45 that is never ending, as well as the San Jacinto River Bridge and Pelican Island Bridge. We do have committees that function, and we have an events committee, an education committee, a newly formed drainage committee, that is chaired by Commissioner Hank Doogie from Galveston County, our membership committee, public policy committee, and a transportation committee. All of those committees are open to anybody with membership in good standing, and we continue to support coastal protection and widening and deepening of the Houston Ship Channel. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Amy, you did a great job covering a lot of information in under 10 minutes. So kudos to you for that. Obviously, as a city, we have two major highways that go through our city, with one of them being a state emergency evacuation route with Highway 6. So I love that you guys have formed a new drainage committee to advocate for that. We have 3 different drainage districts that make up Manvel, an area of Manvel that's not in the drainage district, so that's something of much importance to us. Council, do you guys have any questions for Ms. Amy while she's here? Any comments for her? So I think the next step, Council, is if we wanted to sign up as a city to be a member with it, I think next month is usually when we do our mid-year budget adjustments, and we could have a conversation at that point. Amy, can you speak to briefly just what are your different membership levels and what does that look
so
like?
I actually have a packet that I'm going to leave with you all that explains what is the what am I trying to say, population of Manvel.
I believe Chief is going to share with us here in a minute that we're at about 22,000 people.
Okay, so you guys would fall into our large company, city, county, and government agency.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. We're 12,000 people.
12,000. Okay, this is population of 5,000 plus. So you guys fit in there still. And that runs $2,500 a year.
Okay.
If you wanted to become a sustaining partner, that is another 1,000, so 3,500. And what that gives you is a complimentary table sponsorship at our annual State of the Counties address that we do. That has been our signature event where we have the judges from Brazoria County, Galveston County, and Harris County give presentations on what's upcoming, bond elections or anything like that. And so you guys would get a table of 10 guests at that event if you wanted, and promotion. You'd be recognized on all of our marketing materials and website and that as a sustaining partner. So those are kind of the 2 options there, if you're interested. And I can leave this with you.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you want to give it to our city secretary or our city manager right there.
Okay.
And they'll get that information. And thank you so much for being here and all this information, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good
Amy.
evening.
Appreciate it. You as well. All right. Next, we have the presentation on the Manvel Police Department Staffing and Crime Report from our Chief of Police. Council, we have the presentation in our packets. There's a lot of information that is here that the chief will be covering. And so, Chief, you and your team did a great job to start this off. You did a great job gathering all this information, and I know Councilman Lands was the one that initially brought this up. Councilman Lands, thank you for doing that, Chief. Thank you to you and your team. We might have to make this 2 parts, just depending on time, where we go through the presentation tonight, cover all the questions that people might have. If we can't cover it all tonight, great, but if not, we might have some leakage over to our next meeting. Chief, we'll turn it over to you, and then for first opening questions, I'd love to, Council, be able to give it to Councilman Lands as the one that initially brought forward this idea. So, Chief, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank y'all for allowing me to do this. First, I want to start off with thank you for joining us today as we present the Manvel Police Department's annual crime statistics and staffing report. This report outlines the critical needs of our department and reflects not only the challenges we have faced, but also the progress we have made in maintaining public safety and upholding our commitment and core values to this community. Over the past few years, the landscape of law enforcement in Manvel has continued to evolve, with new challenges arising from population growth, technological advancements, and the complex nature of crime trends. Through the dedication of our officers and staff, we have worked tirelessly to address these challenges while fostering trust and collaboration within the community. Today, I'll provide an overview of the key crime trends from the past years and highlight how these statistics inform our strategic priorities. In addition, I will outline the resources and support needed for fiscal year 2026 and the upcoming years to ensure we remain proactive and effective in delivering the highest standards of service. Our mission is not just to enforce the law, but to create a safe, inclusive, and resilient community where all residents feel secure. With your continued support, we can address current challenges, build on our successes, and strengthen our shared vision for the future of Manvel. First, I want to talk about the breakdown of the police department and the different divisions. The police department is under the Department of Public Safety. It has 5 divisions: administration, criminal investigations, patrol, communications, and records. To break these down further, administration is the chief of police, executive assistants, 3 captains, and a community relations officer. The patrol division, 4 sergeants, 4 corporals, 18 patrol officers, with 4 that have been assigned in the traffic unit. Criminal investigations, 1 detective sergeant and 3 detective corporals. Communications, 8 telecommunication officers and 1 records clerk. Each one of the captains are assigned to each one of these divisions. We have a CID captain, an administrative captain, and a patrol captain. The department employs 37 sworn personnel and 48 total staff members. The minimum staffing requirements based on population. What we strive to do is to keep a 2 officer per 1,000 ratio for our staffing for sworn officers. With an estimated population of 22,106 in 2025, the city should have a minimum of 44 sworn officers to maintain the recommended ratio of 2 officers per 1,000 residents. For the fiscal year 2025-2026, I propose increasing the police department staff as follows: 3 additional patrol officers, 1 records clerk, 1 communication supervisor, 1 investigator, and one thing I thought of tonight as I was sitting here reviewing this again was that we need a property and evidence technician. Additionally, with a plan for the eventual addition of our jail staff, we'll include 1 sergeant and 4 detention officers. Further, I'll be requesting addition of an assistant chief and 2 patrol lieutenants who will serve as watch commanders. As we move into the new facility in July, we're hoping, we will need to add a full-time custodian to the mix. Comparing the city's growth with the police department's expansion, it's clear that in 2023, the department's growth started to slow. Adding these proposed positions will help realign staffing levels with the city's population growth. The 5-year staffing plan. In 2021, I created a 5-year staffing plan. In the chart that you will see in the next few slides, you will see that the highlights the police department's actual staffing levels in comparison to the recommended levels. Given the population growth, our staffing should be more in line with the 2023 targets. Back in 2021, I was asked to come up with a 5-year staffing plan. The staffing plan I came up with, we've been meeting those needs somewhat. We had to make some modifications and changes based off of the budget and the budget allowances. But what I did was I placed the 2025 current staffing in the 2025 column, which is actually showing the staffing levels at the 2022 rate, if that makes sense. Okay, if you look at the staffing chart that we have up there now, you'll see in red where I put the 2025, that's our current staffing levels right now. That's based off of the 2021 plan, okay? If you look at that, where we're supposed to be, it is actually into the 2022 mark, based off of the population. I based this plan off of an estimated population growth, which we are not meeting that population growth in that plan, if that makes sense. So if we go back one slide. Okay. Correct. Okay. Okay, to move on to our crime statistics. The crime statistics data was compared from 2021 to 2024. During this period, calls for service increased by 112%, aligning with the 2021 staffing plan. During this period, calls for service increased 112%, with officer-required responses rising by 68%. Directed patrols as part of our calls for service surged by 393%. Directed patrols focus on high-risk areas and public complaints. Traffic stops, which is a part of our calls for service, but they're self-initiated calls, rose 115%, which is driven by our increased traffic and proactive unit in the patrol division. Reports filed for the same time period rose by 24%, while arrests rose 36%. The arrests are largely tied to the traffic stop increase. DWI arrests increased by 44%. Narcotic-related arrests peaked at 2023, but are now 9% lower than the 2021 rate. Alarm calls and response. From 2021 to 2024, residential alarms dropped 15% and business alarms fell 24%. False alarms rose 46%, but those caused by weather decreased by 60%, while human error-related false alarms declined by 63%. Our response times is something that everybody likes to hear about. Our response times includes the time the telecommunication officer receives the call, processes the call, and dispatches the call, plus the officer's travel time. The data reflects the average response time for Priority P emergency calls decreased from 9 minutes to 5 minutes. A Priority P call is what we look at as our response time because that is considered an emergency response. So that is something where you're running lights and sirens to get to this call. Priority 1, Priority 2, and Priority 3 are not reflected in this. Those are more your less serious responses. Crime analysis overview examines crime trends over the past year, highlighting key shifts and investigative demands. Theft and burglary, most reported crimes, burglary surged 171.88%. Thefts, 38.1%. White-collar crimes increased 65.22%, requiring closer attention. Violent crimes, robbery and arson remain stable but continue to strain resources. That's because the need and the investigative time it takes for those reported crimes. Manvel's growth and its impact on construction site security. This is one of our big issues, one of our big problems we're facing right now. Manvel is currently experiencing a significant rise in new home construction, which reflects the city's expanding population and development. While its growth brings exciting opportunities, it also presents unique challenges. Our caseload analysis, total cases in 2024, a total of 67 thefts and burglaries were reported at construction sites. The trends observed marks a substantial increase compared to previous years, highlighting the need for enhanced security measures at these locations. Factors driving the rise in construction site theft and burglary: valuable materials. High-value items, including tools, appliances, and construction materials, are often left unsecured, making them prime targets. Opportunities for crime. Open construction sites with limited surveillance create an environment conducive to theft and burglary. Impact on the Criminal Investigation Division. It's an increased workload. Investigating construction-related thefts and burglaries requires additional resources, placing a greater demand on the division's personnel and time. Crime analysis and data. Crime data from the NIBRS report 2021 to 2024 includes Group A offenses submitted monthly by the police department. This is required by state and federal law that we report these incidents to the state, and the state refers these crime reports to the federal government. Crimes against persons data. Crimes against persons are among the most common reports officers respond to. The chart illustrates the various crime reported from 2021 to 2024, showing a notable increase in the number of incidents over the years. Case investigation requirements, burglary. This is something that my CID captain put in there to give an example of how long some of these cases an average officer or an investigator takes. Burglary, 36 hours per case, requiring significant resources. Theft, averaging 8 hours per case with rising case numbers. Complex crimes such as arson, fraud, demand extensive evidence collection and interviews. Some of the key insights are taken away from this. Increased burglaries necessitate more investigative focus and resources. Growing case complexity challenges efficiency, despite reductions in some crime types. Some of the findings will guide resource allocation, crime prevention, and investigator support. In the crime reporting, each month the department reports criminal activity to the FBI and Texas Department of Public Safety via the National Incident-Based Reporting System. We call it NIBRS. Crimes are categorized and subdivided for detailed analysis, such as crimes against persons, which includes offenses like murder, manslaughter, rape, and assault. The following slides is more data than anything else. It's just something that I wanted to add to the report to show the significance of our reporting system. We've got in the Group A offenses, we went from 2021 to 2024, and that's our yearly. We report these incidents monthly, but that's our yearly totals. And the last few slides are our racial profiling analysis report, which I submitted at the last council meeting. That's something that heads of agencies have to submit before March 1st of every year. In conclusion, as the city grows, crime trends are rising. To address this, we must increase the police department's presence throughout the city. As growth continues, we will face challenges ranging from property crimes to crimes against persons. If we don't keep pace with this growth, we risk failing to maintain a safe environment for our residents. With that, I will conclude with the staffing and crime statistics report for the Manvel Police Department. Now I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Well, Chief, also kudos to you for covering a lot of information in about 10 minutes as well. So great job.
I knew there were going to be a lot of questions, so I tried to give you the Cliff Note version, and I hope I gave you everything you might need. But looking at facial expressions, I think there's some confusion.
It was a lot of information that was covered, so we'll go back here and dissect it. But appreciate you putting all this together with your team. Councilman Lands, we'll turn it over to you first, sir.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Sorry. Needs of our city safety and the police department. And as you see it, I hear you, and I know the mayor and the council and our city manager hears you. I strongly believe that these needs should not be dismissed in any form. I believe that protecting our streets, our families, and our children is the most critical task that all of us in this room face. That being said, I hope that we never have a person sitting up here in any of these council seats or in the mayor's seat that has a lax attitude towards the needs of our police department. We absolutely must continue to increase the financial support for the police to continue to make sure that it grows and that it gets to the point where we are comfortable with the number of officers and equipment to do their job, keeping our streets, our families, and our children safe. Personally, I think we have a way to go to achieve that. Now, I understand, I've heard that a good portion of our crime is coming from Houston, that thugs travel down here and see our Manvel citizens as targets. I hope that we can grow our department, cover our city, and provide the needed protection that will resonate with these thugs, and they learn that Manvel is not a city to mess with. Now, a few questions. What areas of our city are hotspots for criminal activity or high calls of assistance?
That really depends on the calls we're talking about, because there are several areas that we could focus on, that we are focusing on based on the calls for service. Our biggest issue right now and our biggest problem is construction material theft. A few years ago, it was lumber, because the lumber prices were out of the roof. Now we're facing, then it went to your copper thefts, which we're still looking at facing those types of thefts. The biggest thing we're facing right now, believe it or not, are electrical breakers. They're going into these houses and taking breakers. They're finding houses that are unsecured and actually taking appliances out of these new homes. There are so many areas that our officers are having to cover with these new constructions that it's really hard to focus in specific areas. We are trying to use our data-driven approach to locate our hotspots in our theft areas, and we have actually started working with Pearland and Iowa Colony on special assignments, I guess you would say, that we're actually bringing investigators out in extra patrol to focus in these areas. The patrol officers on the streets cannot handle the calls for service, what they do on the streets, and to be in a special assignment. So we bring extra people out. And of course, with extra people, there's a cost to it. we're not the only one that's getting hit this way. Iowa Colony's getting hammered. Pearland is getting hit as well. So we're working together with these two agencies to build, I guess you would say, a task force that we could bring together and start working together to try to combat these crimes. The other crimes we're talking about are, as you can see, is the assault on persons, which are usually minor assaults, aggravated assaults, based off that occur in a domestic situation. There's areas in town that we frequent more often than the others, but it seems like it's becoming a trend in all of our areas. The biggest issue we face right now is most of these crimes occur at night. We have we're still down officers, and we're trying to get officers hired in. We've actually got one we're fixing to bring in. We're 4 down, we're trying to fill. We're fixing to bring one in. He's passed all his testing. I just got to get a start date. I'm interviewing one tomorrow. We've got 4 others in background right now. But it takes time to get this process through. But the biggest thing we face is if an officer stops a car on the highway for driving while intoxicated related offense, that's 4 to 6 hours out of his day, his or her day. If you have 2 officers that stop cars with DWI-related offenses, that's 2 officers off the street for 4 to 6 hours. If you have a major accident in the middle of all that, now you have nobody on the street because it's going to take everybody else to work this major accident. So trying to say there's a particular part of town would be hard because it's based off the individual crime that we're going to be looking at to try to identify where that part would be.
Well, you mentioned the officers being like tied up with a wreck or whatever. According to these numbers, I'm sure I'm skewed a little bit here, but the number of officers, we have street officers. Is that's like 6 per duty, 6 per shift?
On a good day, that is 4 officers with a corporal and a sergeant.
It's pretty thin, yeah. So knowing these spots, these nighttime areas that seem to be prevalent, what about, can y'all do more surveillance with our drones over those areas during the late night hours, early morning hours?
We can, but the drones will only fly for so long.
Right.
And so what we try to do is we try to assign a particular officer, one officer, for that area. That's what we call our directed patrols. The directed patrols are high crime areas or areas where we need to focus attention on. We have the directed patrols. If they spot something or locate anything, then they act off of that. I'll give you a perfect example. There were several council meetings ago. I was on the way home and I heard over the radio that an officer was in one of our areas and he located a suspicious van, which meets the description of what we're looking for. And 9 o'clock at night, suspect coming out of a garage, well, that's we got to find out what's going on. So I'm on the way home. He's calling it out, so I actually backed him up on the way home as we stopped that car to find out what was going on. I was listening to one of our night sergeants talking this morning that he was in one of these, the same area, and actually had a suspicious vehicle out there, and he just happens to be one of our drone pilots. And he was going to launch the drone, but the vehicle started moving before that. So we're trying to have people in the areas, but just trying to find that right area.
Okay. Let's move on a little bit. I'm sure that all of us here, we're open to working with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. I'm sure our police department is as well. Have we been approached by ICE up to this point for any instances? Can you answer that? Okay.
I have not.
Have we seen an increase in illegal alien activity of crime?
I have not.
Okay. Okay. So I just want to make a comment. I hope that our relationship with this is, hope our relationship with our district attorney is one of a positive stance, that he's works with us, fighting crime, and sees the benefit of putting people behind bars where they need to be. And we don't have a political issue with our,
I meet with him about once a month. About 2 weeks ago, I met with him, and we actually had that discussion of meeting with Manvel, Pearland, and Iowa Colony to create a plan, an action plan, or some type of proactive plan to try to prevent or try to minimize the amount of individuals coming out of the Houston area.
okay.
Building a wall didn't work when I suggested it. I don't think we have the funds for it. I actually told Chief Spires to keep his people and everybody else north of us, but he wanted to share the wealth. So, yes, we did have that conversation, and we're going to start talking and trying to come up with some plan. Iowa Colony borders Fort Bend County. We see a lot out of the Fort Bend County side. Of course, we're in the middle of all of that, but they do bypass Pearland to come right. 280 is a perfect corridor. Highway 6 is a perfect corridor. And that's where we see most of our crimes
Right.
like that, is along those corridors, so they can get out.
Okay. And I know this is a little bit out of your area as the Manvel Police, but can you enlighten us a bit on the working relationship we have with the Alvin School District Police? How fluid is the relationship when it comes to relaying information or concerns about students or outside influences on our students?
That's a tough one. Me and Chief Putnell work very well together. We have a great relationship. I have a great relationship with all the chiefs in our area. The problem we face is Chief Putnell is under some constraints about information he releases based off of what the school district wants to release. He and I have had multiple conversations concerning information and the flow of information. But he has to fall in the parameters of what his bosses tell him.
Okay.
Anything when it comes to the danger of students or something that we need to be involved in, because as he said, if we have a critical incident on one of the campuses, that the Manvel Police will be the responding agency, because he cannot pull resources from other campuses. And so we work together in that aspect of it.
It seems to be abreast of any issues that would be very beneficial. And currently, we don't have metal detectors at the entrances to the schools that do you know of?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, that'd be great to have those. Now we're going to change it a little bit here. I'm about done, guys, I promise. One idea I like to see, and what gets your opinion on it, on our posted speed limit signs, just putting radar enforced under some of them, especially in the high areas where we get a lot of complaints from people zipping through neighborhoods or whatever. Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but I think our city crew is able to make signs. They have a sign making machine, but I think that idea of putting some radar enforced signs up may be an easy deterrent. But, and listen, and I understand that we do have a few vacancies on our police department right now. And I understand that the police academy is getting close to the next round of graduates. I would like the mayor and the council and the city manager to consider a budget amendment as quickly as possible so that we can hire 2 academy graduates that are soon graduating from the academy. And I would like for the mayor and the council to give consideration for the idea of covering the tuition for 2 academy enrollees annually. And in return, we enter a 2-year agreement with the academy graduate to be part of the Manvel Police Department. It's just some ideas.
Well, if I can expand on that, we've already had that discussion, and we're already putting that action into place, except for the reoccurring every 2 years. It's something that the city manager and I have discussed. It was brought up by one of my captains, Captain Day of the Patrol Division, and we talked about it, and we are actually doing the background right now on 2 cadets
Okay,
And the reason is just kind of give council an understanding of what we're trying to do is we're trying to get ahead of the ballgame. Because by the time we get them graduated, we're able to basically handpick our new officers. We get them out, fresh out of the academy, we're able to train them in the Manvel way. By the time they get out, they graduate the academy, we complete all our testing, and by the time we get them out of the field training program, it's gonna be October 1 or later. That's just how long it takes. Our training program's a 3-month training program. So if we get ahead of the ballgame by doing this, then it helps us out. But it also gives us, we also need the leeway to hire experienced officers as well. I like to try to keep always believe in giving a new police officer a chance, because everybody needs a chance. I got my chance 41, 42 years ago. But we also have to have that experience as well. So what we're doing right now is we're hiring an experienced officer that's finished his testing. I'm interviewing an experienced officer. We're doing backgrounds on 2 cadets, but we also have other ones that are coming in as well that we're doing backgrounds on as well. So we're actually replacing the 4 empty spots we have right now and having 2 in reserve. But if we can have that option of having an annual increase of 2 through the academies, that would go a long way.
all right. Thank you. I have more to say, but I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilman Lands. We'll go left to right here. Councilman Bonner, do you have any questions or comments for the chief?
Chief, thank you for the report. I had one thing that I wanted to ask you about is how do you feel the community relations part of the community relations office worked this past year as far as, I know I saw her out a lot at events, and I think that has a great reaction from our citizens when they see that happening and the neighborhoods see that interaction and the programs that she's trying to start. Do you know how many neighborhood watch programs we started this year?
The police department doesn't do neighborhood watches. That's based off the neighborhoods.
But she gave the information so that we could.
We provide the information to allow them to start their neighborhood
Right.
watch. Now, how many we've done or how many she's talked to, I couldn't tell you that. I know she goes to the HOA meetings and she has regular visits with them. But as far as anything like that, I haven't heard of any neighborhood watch that is even trying to start or form.
Okay, that was what I was wondering, if there were any that had based on her visits.
Rodeo Palms tried several years ago. They were actually doing it, but I think I'm not sure, but I think it kind of fell by the wayside because you have to have your volunteers out there, and if you don't
Right.
get the volunteers, then they don't do it.
And it needs to be run right. That's the main thing. And that's what I appreciated when she presented to my neighborhood is there was that information there that you don't just want to be a gang. You need to do things the right way and take a little bit of time to understand what you're really there. You're not there to be a police officer. You're there to be eyes and ears.
And I heard that Lakeland was actually considering and looking at it, but I don't know where they're at with that process.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Chief, hang on to your hat because this may be a surprise about the questions I'm going to
It's
ask.
got to be about alarms.
It's got to be about alarms. Yeah, so for some of you that don't know, I've been looking at this since the last time the chief made this presentation. We have an ordinance in place that requires people to have a permit and even a 30-minute window for response. So in that, Chief, so let's start here. Of the 567 calls, were those actual calls for service or just phone calls? So they call, so the 567, was that just a call to your?
567 are the alarm responses we received.
So you made 567 alarm responses to
No,
homes?
That's how many calls we received.
Calls, phone
Yes.
calls, but was that a call for service for somebody to go check that home?
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
They are dispatched, but they could be disregarded if the homeowner calls the alarm company.
But we don't track that.
Yes.
We do track,
It's part of the, If you go to the alarm table, you'll see where it says caller called back. That's where the caller has called and disregarded the officer.
Yeah, I saw that. So there's a huge cost for false alarms and the time the officers are out on this call. Do we have an average time? Have you tracked that? Have looked at that? Because again, every city in the United States has this problem.
It could,
Right.
the average time on scene could be anywhere from when they arrive 2 minutes to, if nobody's there checking it, could be 10, 15 minutes. But keeping track of that, we'd have to go back
Yeah, so-
and research each one of those.
Do we know how many calls we've received from these construction site monitoring companies?
One that I know of.
More than we know, and none of those are probably permitted. Probably not. So, yeah, in the report, something to consider, right? So the two key components of the ordinance, right, is the number of permits that are issued, that people are actually playing by the rules, which is not very many, and then the response time. I think those are two key metrics that would be neat to see to help us measure, right, really what's happening with that.
Well, here's my plan. This might help you out. If approved for a new records clerk, that is going to be part of that responsibility, is a alarm monitor, alarm manager. The individual will have to, there is a program that we can purchase that goes along with our CAD system, our dispatching system, which will allow us to monitor, run reports, and take care of that.
Right.
The new records clerk was going to be that responsibility.
Right.
And that way our data will be
Improve.
more accurate.
Yeah, improve, yeah.
It will allow us to track the multiple response. It will allow us to send notices out to these multiple response and to actually collect the fines that the ordinance requires.
Right. So, okay, so I was thinking more of an analyst position, right, that I didn't see. I'm thinking we need more of an analyst type position, maybe even in the bigger spectrum of the role, somebody behind the scenes analyzing more of the data. Right, so if that's what you want to call records clerk, I call it analyst. But
Analysts and record clerks are two different things. We actually utilize Paraland because we're piggybacking off their system, so we use Paraland's data analyst. They help us out running different reports that aren't canned reports in the system.
Nope.
But in the future, yes, to have an analyst that would help us with our data-driven approach and would help us out in trying to identify these areas.
Right, yeah, because, this isn't going to get any better, right?
No, it's not.
The reality of it is it's costing the city a lot of money. The risk for the officers responding to these false alarms is extremely high. And it's something that needs to be addressed, whether by council sitting here looking at the ordinance and revisiting it, right? But something has to happen.
I can tell you, Councilman, that this is a problem that we face every day. We faced it in my former city. We faced it there. We actually had an individual who kept track of these alarms. It didn't change it any. We were still getting false alarms. It's one of them things we have to work. One of the things we have to deal with. That's our job.
I get that. And it's probably never going to go away, but there are different ways and I think that might be part of the think tank of different ways of responding to an alarm, right? It may be a phone call.
It's either you either respond to it or you get called off.
I'm
not gonna change that response.
And I'm not going to sit here and split hairs on, because time's short, right? But again, there's a problem, right? So, let's see. I guess that's it, right? Because I've been talking about this for a while. There's we're not getting any farther than we were yesterday.
They've gone down.
The percentage of false alarms have gone down. When I look at there was the same number of 2 years in a row, 23 and 24, 567. Right? So that looks the same.
They're going down.
They're going down. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilman. Well, I think, Chief, going to the alarms, the thing that I would be very interested in is what is our expense per alarm? Because the way that it's set up right now, if you have a registered alarm permit, you get allotted a certain number of responses before you receive a fee that you have to pay from the city. So maybe there's an opportunity to get stricter with that as a way to
Absolutely.
encourage people to make sure that they have their information up to date with the city and that they pay attention to their properties. Because the last thing we want is to put the lives of our officers at risk. So if we understand our expense per response, we could take a look at that. And I'd support Councilman Opliger's efforts as we take a look at this and have a holistic approach. I have more questions. I'll follow up with you one-on-one through our city manager. Two questions I do have. One, when we talk about the crime that's being committed in our city, has an analysis been done to see what is from individuals who reside outside of our city compared to inside? As we know, as Councilman Land said, as Harris County grows, as Houston grows, as other cities grow, of course, that there's leakage into our city.
We have not done an analysis on that because most of these crimes are still being worked on. I can tell you that most of the crimes that are occurring, like in our construction theft, we have tracked back to outside of the city. An example is, you remember a few years ago, we had that diesel theft case we worked. All that was based out of Houston. We recently, about a month ago or so, this same sergeant that was patrolling the areas actually found a vehicle, tried to stop the vehicle, got into a pursuit. They terminated the pursuit because of the reckless nature of the driver, but we've identified that vehicle, and we found the vehicle actually in Houston. So we're thinking, and based off of this information, most of this crime is occurring, and it's actually construction workers that are doing this. And these are individuals that are outside of the city. Now, as far as really doing an analysis on it, we can look at a way to do it. It would be hard to do because we have to go back and look at every suspect on every case to determine where they lived at. And that information we just don't track. We would have to go to each individual case to find out where they're from.
Yeah, maybe there's an opportunity if we get a data analyst or a records clerk to start tracking that moving forward. So, Chief, the main question that I have, if we look at the staffing 5-year projections, we're more aligned with that 2023 number than the projected 2025 number. You have roughly 15 new hires that you need us to hire to be where you need to be for our current population. Every department has needs and has asks, and that's one of the tough jobs that all of us have, is making sure we allocate our resources. As you look at all of this, what would you say are your biggest needs? In 2023, we focused on staffing. 2024 was fortify, get some equipment. 2025, what do you need, Chief?
Well, one of the biggest things is as most of y'all know, I call it the monster. We're fixing to move into a building, and it's going to give us the opportunity to expand. And to expand, it's going to allow us the ability to perform and provide the services that a police department should provide. It's going to be state-of-the-art technology. It's going to be everything we need to provide these services. So some of the things that I was talking with my staff about that we're really needing, our patrol officers. Of course, that's the backbone of any police department. We got to put more officers out on the streets. With the addition of the building, it's going to help us out in a lot of ways. Is like if we make a DWI arrest, we don't have to spend hour and a half per officer to drive to the county to take them to the county jail. Any felony arrest or anything like that, we'll be able to house them in-house until the paddy wagon comes and picks them up the next morning. So that's going to take time away from the officers and allow them to be available for calls because they're in the city and they're not running back and forth down the highway. But the more officers we can get on the street, the better we're gonna be. But when you add officers to the street, you got to also add that support staff. That's where the records clerks comes in. That's where I'm looking at proposing in the watch commanders, which are your patrol lieutenants. Those will be assigned for 2 different shifts as watch commanders. An assistant chief, that's one thing I'm proposing. The city manager and I have discussed this. An assistant chief to assist, to help me out, to help manage these different areas through the police department. One of the biggest things that the support staff is something that's always forgotten when you start talking about a police department. The more officers you add, the more work you create. We can ask our court clerk about that. When we had 4 traffic units running, you can see how our citations increased exponentially. So as we add the officers, as we add the population, the work is going to increase. Things are going to happen. So we got to have that records clerk. We got to have that additional support staff, our property and crime scene tech, someone to be able to manage and take care of our property room, to process evidence, to go out to the crime scene, to be able to process the crime scenes. I don't even know where to start. My list was my priority, I guess you would say. But another thing that I'm going to look at on the outside of the police department, on the public safety side, is we need to add a code enforcement officer. We also need to add, I would like to see a full-time emergency management coordinator. The emergency management would still remain under the Department of Public Safety, but right now, the city manager and myself are the emergency management coordinators. I'm the assistant, and I'm also the incident command. As I found during Barrow, that's not where I need to be. I've got 5 divisions I need to monitor and maintain, and sitting in as an incident command is something that we need to look at. That's where a full-time emergency manager will come in, or emergency management coordinator. There's so much, FEMA has hit us with so much training right now, we don't even have the time to do it. So that's something I'm going to ask for on that. But as far as the staffing needs, that's moving into this new facility. That's going to be. I'm sure I'm going to have to look at this list a little bit different and prioritize it a little bit more. But that's what I'm going to have to need to go into the 25-26 year.
We have a great opportunity in front of us, an opportunity to dream big, and excited to do that with you, Chief. Thank you, sir. Councilman Perry?
Thank you, Chief, for the information. Now, the data nerd in me has not had enough time to really analyze a lot of the information that you presented to us, but just quickly, I see 3 factors that are always going to impact the growth in the crime rate: location, economy, and growth. And for us right now, that's going to be a constant. We're in the shadow of one of the largest metropolitan areas in the nation, and that's not going to change. 288 corridor, Highway 6 corridor, that's only going to improve and gain more access. The growth is continuing, the economic activity. So I don't want to use the term target, but obviously our area is going to be a targeted area for quite some time. I know you're working with Iowa Colony and Pearland. Is there any potential or any merit to having like a data analyst in place? Like you have the empirical data that shows where some of these perpetrators are coming from. Having someone that would look at the big picture constantly and that's capturing the data and managing the data to determine if there's some type of collaboration or partnership that we can form in the region, Houston, some of the other areas, to try to anticipate it's not going to be perfect science, but try to anticipate some of the types of crimes like the construction area thefts, whatever the case may be, to form a partnership to try to do a lot of prevention as well as solving the crimes in advance. And I know it's a lot of information, but just to be able to look at the big picture and plan for the overall long term.
Well, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that's one thing that we can add to the mix. There's a science out there. It's called data-driven approach to crime and traffic. It's called DDAX. Pearland is big into the DDAX, and they have actual DDAC officers. They're actually specifically assigned to monitor and to patrol these high-traffic areas. But of course, they're 200-plus agency.
Yeah.
Eventually, yes, we're going to be in that area. But that's where something that I also proposed is a special operations unit, a special operations fund, which will allow us to be able to utilize, I said fund and Rosie's ears perked up, a special operations fund that we can actually utilize instead of, jumping into my overtime budget. We can utilize that fund to pay for officers to be in these areas. When we identified areas, that we need some attention or special patrols in. DDAX is a perfect example. All of our officers have gone through the DDAX training. It's a one-day class. Everybody's gone through it. Everybody understands the concept of it. I think it's a great program, and hopefully that one day arises that we might be able to have a special unit specifically for that. If we have a special operations fund or something of that nature, then yes, we can say, okay, we need 4 officers for this weekend because we've identified a time frame. And that's what I've challenged my CID captain, is to come up with timeframes, which he has. He's given me some data which has allowed us to be able to put officers in these areas. But again, that's a hit and miss.
Yeah.
You're just throwing water on fire and hope it goes out.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just a big proponent of data analysis management. And hopefully the flock cameras that have been budgeted will.
They have actually, the flock cameras in this one incident I was telling y'all about was actually caught that vehicle and was able to get us the license plate. And of course, it's a fake temporary tag, but our investigators were able to use the cameras to identify a pattern. And they went to Houston and did a grid search and actually found the truck based off of that pattern by the use of the cameras in the Houston area. So it's been a fabulous tool for us.
Great. Good money spent. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. So Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Hudson, what I'd like to do is, if you guys are good with it, we'll keep the workshop session open. We'll step into the regular agenda. We'll knock out these items because we have people here, and then we'll circle back at the end to finish up the workshop. So that way both of you can ask your questions. Would that work for you guys?
Actually, is there anything impeding us from just wrapping it up and finishing this out so then we can start with the clean slate on the council side?
Yeah, if you-
Only because I feel like sometimes we do have these agendas and we end up rushing them to start on time when we're going to spend the time discussing it anyway. So I do like that idea, but I also wonder if we can just knock out ours and be done with it and just start the session.
Yeah, we
then.
can do that as long as we're respectful of everyone's time that's here for the actual agenda items.
Okay.
So if you're good, if you got a few questions to
I
ask.
won't take very long.
Yeah, absolutely. The
Thank
floor is
you.
yours.
All right, I'm on. Chief, thank you so much. I want to personally say that over the last year and a half that I've had the privilege and honor of serving our constituents here, I have been impressed by your work ethic and transparency and desire to see Manvel grow. And every time we have asked for data or had questions, you have come openly with that. Your expertise is admired. I know that it's challenging to manage an entire police force, given the circumstances, and, not everybody's a proponent, and that's okay. But to echo Keith Bonner, Councilman Bonner, and Lance, everybody here really does support our police department, and we want you to feel that. And from day one, I believe our very first council session, we discussed raising the pay for police as well as advocating for benefits, because we are strong believers that if we have the best value for them, we're going to attract the best of the best. So in regards to asking for a budget amendment, I would be in full support of it, but and to your point, balanced. I do think that we need to be graduating cadets, but I also want experienced officers on the street, because to your point, we are growing, crime is going up. Unfortunately, looking at a 202-page packet on Friday night through the weekend is quite difficult. And I'm not so much a data nerd, but I do like to take my time and research, and there's just a lot of information in here. So hopefully we can come back with the part 2, like Mayor said. A couple points that I did notate here are a couple things. I love your eloquent words when you said we have to factor in location, economy, and growth Those are coming whether we like it or not, and we have to prepare for it. The alarm situation, I have a question about that. So are we treating alarms as a live event or like a robbery in progress, or are we treating it like an alarm and going out to sea?
We have to respond to every alarm as if it was an actual alarm call.
Okay, and
A true alarm.
is that an ordinance or a code that you guys have set for Manvel specifically to do that?
No, that is not an ordinance. That is just a police response.
Interesting. Just for comparison's sake, when I did live in Houston, Texas, I love my police officers there too. I have family there, but I remember my alarm going off and actually had robbers jump through my house to the backyard. And when we called along with that, they would not respond because they said they couldn't, because it was not considered a robbery in progress. But in comparison to that, here in Manvel, when I was traveling, I had my brother house sitting who didn't know how to properly turn off the alarm, went to take a shower, and was greeted by a couple of our finest with guns drawn out while he was coming out of the shower quite surprised. True story. So I want to know that if these are all false alarms, I think, is there a way to categorize them, robbery in progress or
They are.
potential? They are. But yet we're still responding to all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
See, just to clarify, when the alarms come out, normally you'll have what's called a panic alarm.
Okay.
Panic alarm is a in-progress call. Most of your panic alarms are with your commercial businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have too many panic alarms in residential. Those are your regular entry alarms, okay? Those aren't what we call priority P. They're priority 1, which means we're not running lights and siren unless it's a panic alarm. Now, again, given the time of day, you run them enough, you figure out, given the time of the day, on what an actual response would be.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you get a panic alarm from Stripes or 7-Eleven, probably ought to get there.
Yeah.
But if it's a panic alarm at a business that's opening up at 8 o'clock in the morning, the response could be a little different.
Okay.
The response is different based off of the traffic, the conditions. Most of your residential alarms, we don't run priority P2 unless the homeowner calls and says, somebody's kicking my door in.
Okay.
And usually, we don't get an alarm company, we get them calling us, or they put it on Facebook Messenger. That's a joke.
I know.
So, but depending on the call, depends on the response.
Okay, so depending on the
time
call.
of day and conditions, depend on the response of the officers.
Okay, and to this point, we are sending them out basically to every single one. And how many were there? 5?
Well, yes and no.
Yes and no.
They are dispatched, but if you look on there where it says call or call back, or
Mm-hmm.
false alarm by weather, we have a major storm coming through, it's gonna set off alarms all over the place.
Okay.
But we still have to go check those alarms. If the caller calls back, meaning they call the alarm company, and the alarm company calls us and disregards us, meaning
Mm-hmm.
they've given the right passcodes, they've done everything they need to do, the officer does not respond any further.
Okay.
If they don't, then the officer responds to check the welfare. When I was on patrol, I would still respond. I would slow down, but I would still go by. I'd knock on the door, hey, is everything all right? That's community relations. That's what I did.
Okay.
Didn't have to do it, that's what I did. But to answer your question, no, we don't respond. We're dispatched to all the alarms, but the response is different based off of whether the caller calls back.
Got it.
Or the situation at the time.
Okay, and the last thing, thank you, by the way, for that answer. And I do have peace of mind knowing that if our alarm does go off, you guys are going to show up.
Unless you call back.
The other important topic is how and what are we doing to build collaboration with our local police entities that are here? Because just driving down Highway 6, we see 3 different type of law enforcement, Manvel PD, Brazoria County Sheriff's Office, Texas State Troopers. I feel very safe and protected, and I'm terrified to speed. I already got a ticket for that, so it taught me my lesson. But are we in talks to be able to, I know you said you want to work on a special task force with Iowa Colony and with Pearland, which I think is great. But what about using what we have already while they're patrolling here?
Well, each agency is tasked for their own jurisdiction, their own areas. The Sheriff's Department, they patrol everything outside of the incorporated area. They don't, you might see them stop a car, but their responsibility is not the city of Manvel. Now, part of the thing we used in one of our special operations is the Sheriff's Department has a crime reduction unit that we call them, and they came out and worked with us. Pearland was out with us. We've actually worked cases where Webster PD has come out. We were having a lot of stolen cars in one area. They were having the same thing, same suspects. They came out and worked with us. We do work.
But those
with
aren't special cases. I'm saying, can we collaborate where they can maybe fill in the gaps in the meantime, or when we have heavy traffic or holidays or things of that sort?
They have their own areas of responsibility, and that's what they'll take.
Okay, so there's
and
no
that's-
plans to be able to join efforts?
I can tell you that with the Sheriff's Department, you might have 2 deputies that are patrolling the north end.
Okay. And then,
The constables, they're responsible for serving civil papers, and they have their own patrols that they contract out with subdivisions that aren't in the city. So if it's not a city police, very seldom we see a highway patrol
yeah,
on a city, inside the city limits, because they're responsible for outside. So anything but a city officer is responsible for their areas outside of the city limits.
okay,
And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But if we need help on something, we call, they come running.
okay,
It's the same thing, if they need help, we go help them. There is a mutual aid that we do.
okay.
But as far as having them come work in the town with us, no, they're not
All right,
gonna do that.
perfect. And then my last statement or question, well, 2 parts, is I would definitely love for the second one, because there's more numbers. Once I go through, I will have more questions, specifics to certain crimes and how we're handling those, the growth, our money, businesses, taxes, to be able to fund that. It's quite disturbing, though, that we can't have more of a presence with Alvin ISD, because I firsthand know of the type of crimes that are happening. And those are not on this report, right?
I don't report Alvin School District.
You can't, right? Because it's not our, okay,
If we get called to the school, it's going to be in there. But most of the time, the Alvin Independent School District Police, they handle anything that's on school property. We handle anything that's outside school property. The city, at night, they have a limited crew that patrols at night. So if we find something at a school or something like that, we usually handle it, and we call them and let them know to see if they want to come out or if they want to respond to it. But as far as us handling anything on school property, that's handled by the school police.
okay. All right, we'll come back to that then. And I think with that, I'm good. I'll have many more questions, part 2. Thank you, Chief.
I'll have other
Appreciate
people
you.
answer them, too.
Thank you so much, though. Thank you so much. This is a lot of effort and a lot of work to put all these numbers together, and I'm sure you relied heavily on your team to do it. And so it shows of your professionalism and your work ethic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Hudson, anything for you, sir?
Just to wrap it up, I know we're running behind schedule, but I just want to say that the police department has come a long way, and you have ways to go. I would want to give you kudos. I have 3 brother-in-laws that's in law enforcement, 2 HPD and 1 sheriff, so I know the things that you really have to go through, and I've been in the military and I've seen this and that. And I just want to continue to encourage you to do whatever's necessary. And my fellow councilmen and ladies, they've touched just about everything. And we can sit there and talk all day, but the thing is, you're doing a good job. That's all.
Thank you.
I want to say, and next time around, there's probably some other questions we can get into, but I've seen the police department grow as the city has grown. And I remember you going to, I think it was Washington, D.C. for a seminar or something that you told me you went to, got a lot of information, and when you came back, you were well enlightened. And I think our police department is in good hands. And don't ever, we can always touch on a lot of different other things. And I see the police officers here in Manvel, they're doing a great job. I think it was the other night, I seen something on Facebook, they had a little meet and greet up there in with HEB parking lot.
Well, they went viral.
That was amazing.
Yeah. So I see that the officers are doing a great job. Nobody's perfect, so we're going to continue on. That's all I have. I don't want to hold up.
All right, sounds good, Councilman.
Yeah.
Well, in legal terms, Chief, I reserve the right to recall this witness at a later date, and appreciate everything and answering all the questions. And Council, we'll move into the regular session at this time. Thank you, Chief. So we will close the workshop a little bit late at 6:16 p.m. We did that strategically, Mayor Pro Tem, that way everyone could get their seats ready, so wise thinking there. So we will begin our regular session at 6:16 p.m. Our call to order, we have 7 of 7 members present, and what we will do next is we will do the invocation, and we have Mr. Ethan here tonight to do the invocation for us. Ethan, everybody heard that you were going to be praying tonight, so they came out here just to listen to you pray, buddy. All right, and Ethan, if you could lower the mic down a little bit for you. There we go, perfect. Oh. All right, go ahead, dude.
Hello, my name is Ethan, and I was invited today to share a word and to lead us in prayer, which led me to meditate on the act itself of invoking God. A man named Jabez came to my mind. The Bible gives a long list of names, and when it gets to Jabez, it says that Jabez invoked the name of God. And his prayer went like this: "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my border, and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from harm, so that it might not bring me pain." A simple prayer, but then the following verse simply says, "And God granted what he asked." 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 10 says, So I think the key here was to ask for the blessing, knowing that God wants to bless us, to include him, and as we are doing, and to desire him with all our heart. I love that God has placed in our hearts this desire to include him and to call on his name. We do it humbly. Psalms chapter 145, verse 18 says, "The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth." I will read Psalms chapter 127, verse 1, and then we will pray. "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who built it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman stays awake in vain." Let us close our eyes and ask God to be part in all we do. Heavenly Father, we thank you for you are good to us. We ask that you bless and prosper everything we do in this meeting. Make way and break all obstacles that may arise. Help us in achieving all goals and provide where provision is needed. But most of all, bring prosperity in our walk with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ethan, and thank you to your mama for bringing you out here tonight. Next, we have our inspirational reading, which is going to be Councilmember David Lance. Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an old saying.
Councilman, can you unmute yourself?
Sure. Yeah, it's on. It's an old saying, but I like it. So it is a tale of two wolves. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, doubt, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, forgiveness, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf wins? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one that you feed.
Thank you, Councilman. If you guys would please join me in saying the pledges. First, to the U.S. flag, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and to the Texas flag, honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. So next, we have our public hearing. So, council, we have 4 public hearings tonight. 3 of them have an item on the agenda. What I would like to ask council's consent to do with these is we'll have a staff presentation on the public hearing. Then we'll go into the public hearing itself, and then immediately after that, we'll go to what that agenda item is for. And so instead of having the people that are here for specific agenda items stay all the way through, we'll lump them after each one. I talked with Dan and Bobby about that. They said it was okay as long as council consented to that order of business. Is that something that you guys are good with doing there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So our first public hearing presentation, Ms. Ellie, what do you have for us tonight?
Can you hear me? Good. Good? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. The first public hearing is for Manvel Town Center PUD amendment. They applied for amendment to the original ordinance approved in 2017. And they are requesting amendment to some provisions in PUD, in planned unit development, regarding parking reduction, lighting regulations, open storage, signage updates, and permitted uses. This proposed amendment address the evolving needs of Manvel Town Center development while maintaining alignments with the city's goal, and staff recommends approval of these amendments. The request was considered by the Planning and Zoning and Development Commission on January 13, 2025, due to the need of clarification regarding ownership of a portion of that property. Commission initially tabled the item. After further review, and since the applicant has not provided additional documents or clarification about the ownership, PD&Z Commission voted 6-0 in January 27, 2025 to postpone the amendment for up to 90 days to allow for further decision.
Great. Thank you so much. Your jacket looks very comfortable as well. All right, so council will now do the public hearing, and to the public, the way that this works is I'll read the public hearing. I'll then open it up as the first call to anybody wishing to speak on the subject of the public hearing. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. We'll have you come forward. Yeah, you're good. Thank you so much. Then we'll do the second call and the third call. Just when you come forward, state your name and address for the record, and then you have the floor at that point. I read these public hearings very fast, so buckle up. Here we go. To hear input from the public regarding an ordinance of the City of Manvel, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the city by amending the planned unit development zoning classification set forth in ordinance number 2017-0-33, amending the PUD document provisions relating to the minimum parking requirements, lighting allowance for open storage, signage, and permitted uses affecting approximately 248.53 acres located in the general area of the northwest corner of the intersection of Highway 288 and State Highway 6, and generally located in Brazoria County Municipal Utility District 42, such tracts being situated in Section 72 of the HT and BRR Co-Survey, Abstract 291, Section 66, Abstract 560, and Section 72, Abstract 460, City of Manvel, Brazoria County, Texas, and also 3 additional tracts totaling approximately 20.9 acres, also situated within the Brazoria County Municipal Utility District 42, providing for an amendment of the city's official zoning map providing for severability, and providing for a penalty in an amount not to exceed $2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof. We will now do the first call for anybody wishing to speak on the subject of this public hearing. Second call. Third call. All right, hearing none, we will close this public hearing at 6:25 p.m. We will now move on to the next public hearing. And do we have a staff presentation? We do. Welcome back.
For this item, I'm here to present a specific use permit request for proposed shooting range to be located at 9431 Uzel Road for firearms training by the Manvel Police Department. Currently, Manvel Police Department does not have a dedicated firearms training facility. Officers rely on external facilities such as Alvin Community College and the City of Alvin Shooting Range, which limits training availability and consistency. Proposed use of shooting range falls under NICS code 7133990, all other amusement and recreation industries, which requires a CUP in open single-family residential zoning district. The site in question is approximately 0.18 acres, located east of Uzel Road. The site is currently accessed from the adjacent public work facility and is surrounded by vacant land and industrial operations. Although the property is zoned open single-family residential, it's about by non-residential land uses on the northwest and east sides, making it more suitable for this use. The property will be leased from Houston Pipeline Company under a 10-year agreement with an annual payment of about $2,700 a month, or lump sum $27 or lump sum of $24,000 beginning in fiscal year 2026 to allow for budget planning. Regarding site detail and safety measures and to ensure a minimal impact on the surrounding area, several safety and noise reduction measures have been incorporated into the proposal. To address concerns about noise, the applicant proposed a 21-foot tall, 42-foot wide berm designed to National Rifle Association standards. In addition, sound will be further mitigated with the use of suppressor and the natural buffer provided by the surrounding vegetation. The shooting range will operate primarily during daylight hours, with occasional low-light training during daylight saving. The range will be exclusively for use by certified police officers with at least 2 range safety officers present during public training events. A 20-foot storage container and a 20-foot by 30-foot carport will be placed on site to provide secure storage and shelter for officers. For compatibility with surrounding area and community impact and compliance, the site's location far from residential properties and buffered by vegetations minimize the potential negative impact. The nearest residential homes are across Uzel Road, approximately 540 feet away. As the site is for training purpose only, no significant increase in traffic is expected. Parking will be provided at the nearby public works facility. The personnel aligns with the city's comprehensive plan. The proposal aligns with the city's comprehensive plan as it supports community safety, a core value updated by the City of Manvel. The staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval of the SUP with conditions including maintaining the earth berm, securing storage for equipment, and directing shooting away from user road. The Planning Commission, Development and Zoning Commission reviewed this request on January 13, 2025, and voted unanimously 6-0 to recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. So we'll do the public hearing, and then we'll immediately go to the agenda item, and if we have questions at that point, we'll ask you. Thank you so much. We will now move on to read out the public hearing here at 6:30. Then we'll do our 3 calls, and then we'll move directly to that agenda item. This is to hear input from the public regarding an ordinance of the City of Manvel, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the city by amending the zoning classification of approximately 0.18 acre tract of land generally located east of. Different people have different impressions on how to say this. Okay, so ironically enough, with it being a shooting range, the way I was taught to say it was like you say muzzle, it's uzzle. But I know there's different interpretations of how to say it. So east of Uzzle Road, a portion of PID 171882 with access to property from 9431 Uzzle Road from open single-family residential district to open single-family family residential district with specific use permit, OSFR, SUP, providing for the granting of a specific use permit with conditions to authorize the use of property for NAICS use 7133990, all other amusement and recreation industries, providing for the amendment of the city's official zoning map, providing for severability, and providing a penalty in amount not to exceed $2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof. We will now do the first call for anybody wishing to speak on the subject of this public hearing. Second call. And third call. So we will close this public hearing at 6:31. We will immediately move as a follow-up to that for the first item on our regular agenda, which is consideration and possible action to approve the first of 2 readings of ordinance number 2025-0-02. So council, we received a great presentation on the subject of this agenda item. Do you have any follow-up questions or comments for staff? Hearing none, do I have a motion for this agenda item?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilman Bonner. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we'll give it to the lady there. So we'll give it to her.
There is conditions.
Okay, so the motion is with the conditions, Councilman? Okay, so we have the motion with the conditions. Mayor Pro Tem, do you second that?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, everyone. We will now go to our 3rd out of 4 public hearings, and I believe we have another staff presentation on this public hearing, and we have Miss Jessica, who's about to give birth here soon. We're very excited for you. How are you feeling? Good, awesome.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, good evening. A request has been made to rezone a 12.6 acre tract at the southwest corner of Croy Road and Del Bello Road from open single-family residential to light commercial with an SUP. This will allow commercial use within the light commercial district and permit a 1.27 acre portion for a gasoline station with convenience store. The site is currently vacant and located in the intersection of 2 major thoroughfares, Croy Road and Del Bello Road, though neither meets the required standards of the major thoroughfare plan. Applicant is here present, presenting Natural Walkways LLC, proposed subdividing the land for a multiple retail buildings, including a gas station and convenience store. An SUP will be required. The site is at the edge of Manvel city limits along Croy Road. To the north within the city Manvel's ETJ are residential duplex designated areas. The south, east, and west are zoned open single-family residential, with vacant land to the south and residential homes at the east and west. Rezoning would introduce commercial development to a predominantly residential area. While no gas stations exist within the 2-mile radius inside city limits, a few are located in the ETJ. Some positive aspects that staff found: there's no gas stations within the 2-mile radius in the city limits, indicating service gap for nearby residents. This development can provide nearby residents with more convenient access to fuel and essential items. This site is in the intersection of Croy Road and Dobello Road, both designated as a major thoroughfare in the thoroughfare plan. This makes the property well-suited for future growth, and the development can bring new business and jobs to the area. Some key issues to consider is traffic impact analysis is needed to assess more how the project will affect traffic flow in Dobello and Croy Road. These roads are designated as major thoroughfare, but it's required improvements to support increased traffic. And the area is currently predominantly residential, which raises concerns about noise, lighting, and traffic. However, these concerns can be addressed through enhanced landscaping, fencing, and limiting operating hours. The site does not currently have access to city water or sewer services, but applicant has proposed using water well and septic. Staff recommendation. The site's location is an intersection of two major thoroughfares, supports its transition to commercial designation. However, since the streets and infrastructure improvements have not been made, rezoning to commercial must be carefully considered. Due to absence of traffic impact analysis, preliminary drainage analysis, and other site details, staff is not able to provide a recommendation for this request. At the February 10th, 2025 PD&Z meeting, several Manvel residents voiced strong opposition to the proposed zoning change that would allow a gas station and a retail establishment in the predominant residential rural area. Concerns were raised about traffic congestion, road safety, environmental risk, and negative impacts on property values. Given the gas station already exists nearby, residents argue that the development was unnecessary and would compromise on the area's rural character and quality of life. The applicant clarified that the project is intended to serve communities' immediate needs. However, PD&Z voted against recommending with 0 votes in favor and 7 opposed. Therefore, PD&Z Commission did not recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Jessica. When we go to the agenda item, we might have questions there for you. So if you want to sit either up here or in the front row, that way you don't have to walk as far, that works. Awesome, thank you, Jessica. So what we'll do now is I'll read out the public hearing. We'll open it up. I'm going to read the names of the people who spoke at our PD&Z meeting, so that way that's a part of the record. We do have some people that have emailed. So what I'll do for those individuals is I'll read out your name. If you're here and you wish to speak, please raise your hand. We'll have you come forward. If not, I'll just state if they were for or against. We'll submit that as a part of the record, and then we'll open it up. Thank you, Jason. We'll open it up to anyone else that is here wishing to speak on it. So this is to hear input from the public regarding an ordinance of the City of Manvel, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the city by amending the zoning classification of approximately 12.5056 acres located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Croy Road and Del Bello Road, Manvel, Texas, from open single-family residential district to light commercial district with specific use permit, providing for the granting of a specific use permit with conditions to authorize the use of property for NAICS use 447110 gasoline stations and convenience stores, providing for the amendment of the city's official zoning map, providing for severability, and providing a penalty in amount not to exceed $2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof. So the individuals that spoke at the PD&Z meeting, they all spoke or submitted written comments opposed to it, were Angela Vickerman, Damian Vickerman, Alexandra Smith, Anita Boyd, Jennifer Rhodes, Wendell Rhodes, Jean Chesson, Joan Kennedy, Angie and Marvin Schedule, Christina Hillman, Joe Adams, Roger Stoder, Phyllis Manson, Ryan DeBello, Ed and Christina Campbell, Brian Nami, Michael Petru, Deanna Young, Keith and Vera Armstrong, Alexis DeBello, David Headley, Prince Sanchez, Tyler Ponder, Angela Smith, Akila Amos, Leslie Burkhead, and those are the last ones there. For those that have submitted public comments, I'll read off your name, and if you're here, please raise your hand if you'd like to come forward and speak. We have Joan DelBello Kennedy. Not here, and Joan is opposed to the rezoning. Next, we have Angela Vickerman. Miss Angela, I know you're here. You did a great job speaking at the last meeting. If you could just please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours. Thank you for being here tonight.
My name is Angela Vickerman. My address is 6003 Del Bello Lane, which is this one. And I am opposed to the potential rezoning for the intersection in question. I hope that the unanimous vote by PD&Z really carries a lot of weight with y'all, but in case anyone's still on the fence, I hope the things that you hear tonight may convince you that this is not a good idea. The 20 people who sent in emails before the PD&Z meeting and the 7 of us who got up and spoke raised several concerns, like Dan mentioned, the environment, the traffic, the lighting, all of that. And those are still very valid and they need to be considered. But there is one particular item that I want to focus on tonight, and that is the lack of need for this development at this particular location. You have a map in your packet. I know the city likes to focus on kind of a 2-mile radius, but if you even take it out further and look at a 3-mile radius, there's 19 different gas stations that we were able to look at on a map. But I know y'all focus on a 2-mile radius. So if you look at the map, you will see all the gas stations that the city marked along Highway 6, and you'll see a couple of them up in the northern section of the map. And they're outside of the 2-mile buffer zone that y'all look at. But when we were looking at it, we actually noticed 4 different gas stations that are actually in the 2-mile radius. And at first I thought maybe they were excluded because they're in the ETJ. But then when I looked, you can see up in the corner that the one in the kind of the north side is John's Countryette, and that is also in the ETJ. So if you're going to put one on the map that's in the ETJ, you really ought to put the other 4 that are in there. And more importantly than just putting it on the map, I think you need to really consider that when you look at the city ordinance, which is 7750G7. And that reads, a gasoline station shall not be located within 2 miles of an existing gasoline station and convenience store. The distance shall be measured from property line to property line. Nowhere in that language does it say that the gas station needs to be within the city limits. If you take the wording at face value, it sure sounds like another gas station would actually violate the city ordinance. The only thing that this proposed development seems to have in its favor right now is that it's located at a future key intersection, and the area is expected to grow in the future. And what I can tell you is that my family actually owns approximately 150 acres of the agricultural land that's right next to it, including the hayfield to the south of it. And we have extended family that owns even more land in that area. And there are no plans right now for significant development to happen on any of that land. So this development really does not make sense for the city of Manvel, not right here and not right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Next, we have Sherry Burge. Ms. Sherry, okay. Ms. Sherry submitted comments in opposition to the rezoning change. Next, Mr. Damien, would you like to, just you concur with your wife? Smart man, smart man. Happy wife, happy life. All right, well, Damien agrees with what his wife said. Next, we have Leanne Hooks. Okay. Leanne is just scanning here. Oh, you're opposed? Well, thank you for helping. I was trying to read very fast. Thank you for the help there. Next, we have Kim Cravey. You don't want to speak? Okay, thank you. She's opposed to it. I appreciate that. All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate that. All right, that is the end of the comments that were submitted. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up. I'll do the first call. If anybody wishes to speak, please raise your hand. We'll have you come forward. Oh, look at that. Wait, we had the young one. The young one had the initiative there. So we'll do the first call for public hearing, and sir, you can come up first. And then we have a lady in the back left that we'll go to next. If you could just state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prince Sanchez at residency at 5990 Del Bello Road. I'm opposed to a gas station, and I'll state a few reasons in a bit. The construction of a gas station on Del Bello Road in Manvel, Texas, is a threat to our neighborhood and environment. This development will bring pollution, traffic, congestion, and harm to local wildlife. One of the biggest concerns is the potential for fuel leaks contaminating the groundwater. I'm aware that majority of the people here do not run on city water and instead run on well water. Even a small leak from the underground storage tanks could pollute the underground drinking storage tanks, which cause serious health risks. Gasoline and other chemicals from the station could seep into the soil and spread, making the problem even worse over time. The gas station will also introduce excessive artificial lighting, disturbing nocturnal animals, birds that rely on the darkness to navigate and survive. This light pollution will not harm wildlife, but also take away the clear night skies that make our area special. In addition, this development will significantly increase traffic on Del Bello, making the roads more congested and dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists. Heavy trucks and more vehicles will lead to faster road wear, potholes, and creating long-term maintenance costs for the community. And no one likes driving on bumpy roads. So, finally, ladies and gentlemen, think about what will happen to future generations like mine. Think of your kids in the future, the ones that will be paying more tax dollars to clean and purify the water and fix the roads. For the safety of our water, the protection of our environment, and the well-being of our community, we must oppose the construction of the gas station. We urge the city officials to reconsider and prioritize the health and safety of Manvel residents over corporate development. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Prince. And Prince, if I may ask, how old are you?
I'm 14.
14. Well, when you're looking for a job, I'll hire you as my communications director. Okay, you did great. You did great. Thank you, Prince. All right, I believe we have the lady in the back left. Yes, ma'am. If you could come forward, state your name and address for the record. Thank you for being here tonight.
I'm Adrienne Ponder. I'm at 4700 Curry Road. I've lived out here in Manvel most of my life, my whole family has, on Curry Road. And we've been currently living at our residence about 4 years. We are opposed to changing the zoning to allow the building of this gas station. We do realize that the area is growing, developing, changing, and we do love the advantages that come along with that in the local areas like it's Highway 6 and 288, 518, and 288. It's been wonderful. So we'd like to see improvements in infrastructure before building. Improve the roads, water, sewer, and drainage. Currently, no traffic or impact study is a problem for us. The one-way stop intersection is dangerous. A three-way stop is also not enough, as evidenced by the next three-way stop just up the road at the next intersection at Old Massey and Del Bello. Cars completely ignore the stop signs and have been witnessed driving straight across the ditch into the field. The Gatashek residence is across the street from the proposed planning site, with his driveway just offset from County Road 58 at Del Bello. He's had a vehicle miss the stop sign on more than one occasion, multiple vehicles running up his yard, and one even driving all the way through his yard, striking his house. Another gas station, convenience store, is unnecessary. There are 3 additional gas stations within the 2-mile radius, one at 89 and Bailey, 2 at the entrance of the Sedona Lake subdivision. It's no inconvenience to drive 2 miles to get to those gas stations. In addition, 18-wheelers delivering fuel may have a difficult time accessing the station coming down the narrow S-curves on County Road 58 or the crumbling asphalt along Del Bello. Dump trucks are frequently coming way over the line around the curves, running other cars off the road. You can see the ruts along those curves on the sides of the road. Gas stations and other commercial property increase foot traffic. With no sidewalks, let alone shoulders present, and the speed with which people pass through our small part of Manvel, I fear for the lives of the children riding their bikes or walking from Oak Crest to the store to get snacks. The site plan has a septic field and detention pond in the same area. Are there consequences or chances of leaching septic water into drains? Are there plans to follow a city fire code with no city water run out there? Light commercial requires sprinkler systems. Will they be able to make those accommodations for that sort of location? That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And is that Is that a pizza? Is that a pizza clip? I love it. It's great. I love pizza. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your comments. I believe, do we have anyone else that is willing to speak? Okay, I think we have someone already making their way up front, and then we have a few more people, so we'll bounce around there next. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Angela Smith, and I live at 4718 Curry. And I'm here to voice my opposition to the proposed gas station. My family owns 20 acres at that intersection, and my husband and I moved from downtown Houston, an apartment in 1976, got our first 5 acres, and then we acquired 3 others, including that 20 acres. Since then, I just want to say my main objection is the expected increased traffic and possible accidents, because I've been witnessing this for over 45 years, and there have been some horrific accidents on these 2 roads. I've witnessed a fatality recently, and also was on scene for a young man that went in the ditch and was seriously injured at that one of those bad curves on County Road 58. These 2 accidents really stick in my mind, that we might be inviting even more and more traffic. And my family has been involved in many near misses over the years. Just the day after I spoke at the last hearing, I almost had a head-on with a impatient guy that tried to get in the lane, and, because there was 15 cars backed up, and he just didn't want to wait. So I see it as, bringing on additional dangerous traffic. The infrastructure is not there, like everyone has said. The roads are crumbly at that intersection, and I don't see any need for it personally, as for the reasons everyone else has stated. So I would just like to urge you all to not grant the proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being here tonight. Next, we'll go to Mayor Deborah Davison next, and then Mr. David will go to you after that, and then, ma'am, we'll go to you. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, Mayor. How are you doing? So good to see you. You're on this side on the podium now, huh?
Yeah, this is something different. So, the residents have all spoken, and they've had fabulous reasons for this not to take place. I'd like to tug on your heartstrings just a little bit in the words that I have to say, and that is, we have generational land there. We have land that people are used to sitting on their back porch and looking at their pastures, and we don't have a lot of that left. And as much as we want to, as much as we feel like we need to modernize and go forward with progress, I agree. I mean, I sat there. I believe that we need lots of things in the city of Manvel. But in this instance, I'm asking you to remember that there are families that have been there for a very long time. Now, 3rd generation from now, that young man or young woman may choose to sell that property and get on their way, but that's not happening right now. And so I just ask you, what is the need? What is the need in Manvel right now for this gas station to be in this place when there are so many other needs, and quite frankly, when there's so much opposition? So you have a learned Planning and Zoning Commission. They have all voted against it. I'm asking you to join them and to, if nothing else, put this off. Let us remain rural in the places that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you being here tonight, Mayor. All right, Mr. David, if you could state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is David Headley, 3951 Del Bello Road. I've got kind of a different viewpoint. Like my last name's not on any street signs. I don't have generations here. I'm specifically here because it is convenient. This is a great place to live. I live here, I work here, my kids go to school here. I like its proximity to 288 and to Highway 6, and I'm in favor of growth and expansion. All that said, this is completely unnecessary. This gas station should not be there. There's no reason to have it. As everyone else has already said, the traffic and the road conditions through that area are very poor already. It's not going to help anything. I know the developer, their focus, as their stated focus, is that they're not trying to draw any new traffic to the area. Their goal is to just service the people that are there already and add conveniences to the people that are there already. But as a lot of us are here saying right now, that convenience is not even needed nor necessary. My other big concern is, it's highlighted a little bit, so I just want to bring it up again. Oakcrest is right there. It kind of tees right into that same area. Right now, there's no reason for any people to be walking out of Oakcrest and then walking towards that area. So right now, there's not a big safety issue with the lack of shoulders and the lack of sidewalks or anything like that. But as soon as we put in any kind of gas station, any kind of convenience stores, all of a sudden you're creating a draw for these folks to be walking around and in that area. And the lighting and all the other road conditions there is just a bad idea. We're just asking for some safety issues that are coming up down the road. So I'm in favor of growth for the area. I'm in favor of new expansion, but this is not the right time for it. We're years and years away from having the right infrastructure in that area to be able to support that. So I'm definitely opposed to this, and just want to highlight again, the PD and Z all voted unanimously against this as well. So just take their advice and listen to the community as well, please, and please vote against this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Just come forward, state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours. Thank you for being here tonight.
My name is Carolyn Del Bello. I live on 5901 Del Bello Lane, and I'm 83 years old. I have lived on Del Bello Lane for 55 years, so I'm that generation. My family. And I appreciate what she had to say, because that's what I'm here for. The land that we're talking about is next to our land. Our hayfields, our cattle. We are a working farm and ranch. We still have cattle. My in-laws had dairy cattle. Well, they passed away, so we just have range cattle, but we have to raise hay for them. And so we are a working farm. And when I got the letter about a gas station and convenience store, it shattered my peace and my family, because we weren't ready for that. And I don't remember. My husband does. Roy Del Bello was raised on Del Bello Lane, and Joan, his sister, who's here, knows. They were here. The roots go so deep. God blessed us with this town, this city. It's a God-blessed city, and so many dairy farms were around. And back then, no fences, very few roads. The cows were all let out from all the dairy farms, and they grazed across 288. I mean, as far as you could see, it was just land. And the cows would all go out, and the young sons of the families would go and bring the cows in for milking. And each set of cows knew where to go for their dairy. They just broke off and went in. And it was marvelous, a peaceful, wonderful life. I came along at a later time of it in 72, but my husband and I raised our 3 children in here, and they didn't even go to doctors. they never got sick. They just ran out on dirt bikes and ran all over, and it's a wonderful place. Now, am I against growth? Heavens no, that'd be stupid. I can't be, it's already here. I can't say I like it, but it's here and okay, I go to HEB too. That's nice, isn't it? But to picture a gas station and convenience store right on the corner there of our land that is so peaceful, like I said, with cattle grazing, hay fields, and I look out my kitchen window and I can see that scene. And to see a commercial gas station and convenience store, which I appreciate what they said about, there's 19 of them around. I don't think we need one on Del Bolo Road and Croy Road. Now, I've been told over and over, the day will come, Carolyn, when it's all going to come out from Houston, it's going to come on out, and we're going to have the growth. And all I can say is, please let it not be this day. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Miss Carolyn. And Angela, if we haven't interviewed her for the History Collection Project, we definitely should do so. All right, we will now do the second call for anybody wishing to speak on the subject of this public hearing. Yes, sir. If you could come forward, state your name and address for the record. The floor is yours. Thank you for being here, sir.
Yeah, I'm Don Peterson. I live at 4606 DeBella Road. I just got a little story about how narrow DeBella Road is. So my wife and I, because I'm trying to be healthy, walk every morning between 5 and 6 a.m. Some people see me, I think David sees me once a month. And it's dark, so I have my flashlight walking down DeBella Road. And I'm walking south on DeBella Road. That road is so narrow, if a school bus comes from the other way, it literally stops. It's afraid to drive by me. And I'm on the other side of the road. And they'll wait till I walk by. And if another car comes, that school bus will stop. The road is just too narrow for commercial traffic yet. So when you make it wider and bigger, we can have a gas station. In the meantime, let's try not to. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Don. Appreciate you being healthy there, sir. We will now do the third call for anybody wishing to speak. Yes, sir, the cowboy hat. Thank you for being here tonight. If you could state your name and address for the record, the floor is yours.
My name is Ryan Del Bello. I live at 6026 Del Bello Lane. I just wanted to say thank y'all for letting us voice our concern here. Obviously, I'm opposed. I sent an email earlier, but part of the reason we moved out here was to. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to get emotional. To give my daughter the childhood that I had, a lot of open land, being able to work on the farm, drive the tractor, deal with the cattle. Projects like this, I know, like Aunt Carolyn said, they're coming. But this just doesn't seem like the time right now. Like I said, the whole point of moving out here, we have this land out here. I want to give my daughter the same opportunities I had. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the subject of this public hearing? And if you do, please try not to make me cry. All right, hearing none, we will close this public hearing here at 7:03 p.m. Thank you to everyone that spoke. We'll now move to the agenda item, which is our agenda item number 2. And this is consideration and possible action to approve the first of 2 readings of ordinance number 2025-0-04. We had a presentation from staff already. Do we have the applicant here wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. If you could please come forward and just let us know who you are, and the floor is yours. And then we'll open it up, council, to comments or questions after that. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. So there's a dichotomy with me being here. My name is Desiree Waraxa, and I represent the development. I understand the opposition. I grew up on 300 acres, and I drove those country roads my whole life. So my heart feels just like you guys. I was tearing up back there as well. Yet I do have some points because I do work for this project. Who would have thought growing up 300 acres, this would be what I do for a living for the last 20 years. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a few things and just tell you more about the development so that you can make an informed decision. Can I do the slides myself? Or is that?
Tammy, is she able to do it herself? Okay. I think she's going to try giving you control here.
Okay.
There you go. All right. I think it's yours.
Okay. So first off, this is one of the other locations in Iowa Colony in Meridiana. I just wanted to show a picture of what they look like. They are, a nicer convenience store. These are not typically high traffic locations as far as gas is concerned. They're more moderate, existing traffic based locations that don't necessarily draw new traffic. So they are built nicer, they plan them nicer, they really work with any of the cities or counties or drainage districts to put these up. And then I know the site plan was in the packet, so I'm gonna skip over that. So I just wanted to, after the last meeting, all of the current concerns that were presented, I wanted to kind of go over them throughout these couple of slides. So we know that the safety concerns were presented, and my client is here to work with the city and the county and the drainage district on all of those issues. We actually do feel that with some road improvements, possible traffic lights, even widening roads, being that those are both slated to be thoroughfares later on. We do know that with them slated as thoroughfares, commercial is on the way. Utilities aren't far away, and they've been making their way that direction. And typically when we are looking for a location for our properties, we are looking to get just outside of the development that's already there where we know that it's going. So those safety concerns, every time we do a project, we have to think about those, and we have to plan for those and be prepared for them. So that is something that we're listening to the community, listening to the city and the county to see what all we need, because we know there's a county road there and a city road. As far as intersection sidewalks, road conditions, overgrown vegetation that obstructs visibility, all of those things would be addressed throughout the project. The intersection also being county and city road, we've consulted with both entities. We already know the standard requirements. We're very well aware that there's going to be future potential requirements through the permitting and design phases. So we're prepared for all of that. As far as sidewalks, driveways, other improvements that may be needed, including traffic lights. Future road planning, being that both of them are thoroughfares, we do know that there's a potential for a traffic light later on down the road. It sounds like with all of the accidents that that definitely would be a big consideration there. Also, again, this is designed to function with existing traffic. It doesn't depend on additional traffic. They currently see on those roads about 4,000 cars a day. We did look at that. These stores typically get between 700 and 800 visits a day. So that would be diverted between two different driveways as far as traffic is concerned. And we do not expect that it would add additional traffic. Typically, they don't, just in the nature of them being mostly convenience store. In our business, we call them C-stores because they don't rely as much on the gas sales as they do for the convenience side of things. Also, this being a phased development, there's no way that what's on that site plan can be done anytime soon just because of the infrastructure currently. So phase one would only include the convenience store on the corner, and future developments would be considered when the nearby growth supports that additional infrastructure, and their city sewer and water services or public sewer, city and sewer services. Traffic impact analysis, that will be part of the process of making sure that any requirements like traffic lights or street improvements were considered. Also, the drainage study, those cost between $50,000 to $75,000 for the full engineering drainage study. We have been in contact with District 3 about the requirements, just on a basic level. So we know what those are. However, we also know that that drainage study would be required as well. Stormwater would be managed through on-site detention, which would drain into roadside ditches. There's 3 acres of land for the detention and the septic, so the engineers will make sure that those are all done correctly and there's plenty of space for it for this project. The initial phase will utilize the well water in the septic system. Fire protection, so currently a water well would supply fire storage tank to serve as the sprinkler system for the convenience store. That's under 5,000 square feet. We've looked into the requirements of what it would need. Future larger projects would be postponed until public services were available to tap into, because those would probably need a more intense fire plan. Utility planning. This is something that was a concern of the city that they had asked us in the process. Each site, when it's replatted, will have its own recorded instruments for utilities at that point, because we will have to be doing a replat on this land. That replat will also create where it is 2 miles distance between it and any other convenience store, because I know it's property line to property line, and right now the property is a lot bigger. When we replat, that property will be a lot smaller. So we already are aware that it's future commercial being considered out there, and that development is headed out that way. So we are willing to phase it in gradually, and really listen to the city and the community, and not build it all right up front. That's something that we're really good at, is working with everybody to make sure that, we're not putting major things out there that the infrastructure can't handle. So we already discussed traffic impact, the current traffic flow. I already mentioned that one. And we did get county requirements on the driveways and improvements. They were the ones that mentioned a traffic light at that location in the future. And then the city obviously has let us know all of theirs. Drainage requirements, we already touched on that. And the last thing is, just given the future developments planned for this area, we believe we would be a strong partner with the city and ensure a smooth phase transition to the growth, instead of just coming in and, building something robust.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Desiree. And I certainly can understand the tough spot you find yourself in, as you can relate to the concerns and the emotions that were shared at the same time. You are representing the landowner, and you have a job to do too while trying to accommodate that. So we appreciate you giving us this overview in this presentation. Council, any comments or questions in general, or anything from Miss Desiree? No?
I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Given the fact that we have strong opposition from the community, specifically for gas station, if this is denied, what are other alternatives that you guys have thought about? Because clearly the land was purchased to develop it, and there is growth coming. I hear it's strong, very strongly said, it's loud and clear. They don't want it in this area. It's not the right time, it's not the right place. But since you do have the land, and if this doesn't go through, what are some options that you guys have discussed?
So they've actually done lots more than just gas stations, and that's why they were planning to do multiple things on this. We thought it would be a great location to be able to phase it in like that with a gas station. I'd have to discuss with them what they think would also be a fit. They're also open to potentially holding the land and just seeing later on down the road and, coming back to you.
Got it.
But they're great at working with the city. That's part of what I do for my job, is work with developers and cities and really just bring them together versus, having strong opposition and headbutting and all of that. We really want to work with you to see, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what y'all would like to see out there, to be honest with you.
I think that's a great approach, is really checking in with the community. That seems to have worked with other developers, is to really get involved with the community and reach out to them and say, hey, let's do some type of workshop with them, obviously on your own, not with the city.
Right.
But to hear from them, what do they want, if they even want anything. I know that there's other plans to possibly have parks in the area, but things that are more family-oriented, that really cater to children, his daughter growing up in Manvel, and those type of things. So I would definitely, take that back so that, you guys can brainstorm a little bit more, just because this is definitely not something the community wants, but doesn't mean they won't want something else. Thank you.
Well, Desiree, I was glad to hear that the current landowner is not opposed to holding it, because I will be voting against this change tonight. It's a great piece of land, and I think there's opportunity in the future. Sedona Lakes is going to be building further south. There's a potential Del Bello expansion. The S-curve is going to be realigned and smoothed out. You have Dolores Martin Park that's right there, but it's a little bit too premature for me. I would also like to see next time that you guys come forward to understand what you would be looking to do with the other commercial land, because our ask tonight is not just to rezone for the gas station, it's to rezone all of it. And when we rezone all of it to light commercial, that opens it up to a plethora of land uses that raises question marks and red flags for me about what else could go there, what could be next. There's a lot of influences, we'll say, not just with the corner that you guys would be holding, but if you drive a little bit further down on Del Bello, you have a pretty significant curve right there, and Del Bello's a narrow road too. So I appreciate all the work that's been put into this. I just think it's a little too soon right now. All right, thank you, Desiree. All right, Councilman Lance.
I'd just like to add that I'm familiar with this corner. I just live a couple of curves away from this location. And I know another issue that's going to be coming up whenever y'all do hit an agreement to develop whatever may be there is the ditches. You talked about the outfall from the detention pond into the ditches there. There's basically no ditch there. It's very, very shallow. So your engineer is going to be looking at pumped detention. And that's one thing that we have issues with up to date is pump detention in our city. So just so you know, that will be a major hurdle whenever that point comes. Thank
Councilman Lance, speaking. Our city managers love language about pump detention. Some concerns about it. All right, so as a reminder, council, we have to make a motion in the affirmative. If you make a motion, you do not have to vote for it. So I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-0-04. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Councilman Oplager. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion fails unanimously 0-7. Thank you for being here tonight, Desiree. All right. We now have one more public hearing. If you're here, you're more than welcome to stay. If you'd like to leave and go have dinner, you're more than welcome to leave. If you have one of the portable chairs, just leave it there. We'll take care of it afterwards for you guys, so do not worry about that. So we now have the staff presentation for this public hearing. Do we have anyone that is lined up to do the presentation on this one? Yeah, I think she might have just stepped out. I think we're pretty well versed on what this is. So what we'll do is we'll go into the subject of the public hearing. We'll open it up, and then we'll get a staff presentation afterwards once we get to the agenda item. Dan, unless you'd like to cover it for us.
Well, again, so this is the Wolf Air Park de-annexation request. So disannexation request. So this came from some of the property owners out there at Wolf Air Park. In response to some difficulties that they're having in building airplane hangars. Thank you. I'll get it out. You can tell I was ready for this. So obviously we don't have utilities out there and everything. So the request came from Chad Thuman, and I saw Chad's here tonight. So he's going to give us an update on where they're at right now. But so the request has come forward. He's got his update for us. Do you want to jump into that now, Mayor? Or you
Yeah,
want to
well, what we'll do is we'll open up the public hearing.
Okay.
And then Chad will allow you to share during the public hearing, and then if we have any questions, we'll get to that once we get to the agenda item. Does that work, Dan?
Yes,
For you?
of course.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's read the public hearing, and then we'll open it up to anybody wishing to speak. So this is to hear input from the public regarding an ordinance of the City of Manvel, Texas, providing for the disannexation of part of Wolf Air Park according to the plat recorded in Volume 16, page 153, Plat Records, Missouri County, Texas, being a part of the certain annexation ordinance number 73-1. As recorded in Volume 1279, page 838, Deed Records, Missouri County, Texas, disannexing and discontinuing said property from the corporate boundaries of the city, containing certain findings and providing other matters related to the subject. So we'll do the first call for those wishing to speak for the public hearing. Chad, would you like to speak first here? Just if you could state your name and address for the record, and thank you for sitting through all that and being here tonight.
Yes, thank you, Council, Mayor, and staff. My name is Chad Tooman, 6836 Caitlin Drive, Pearland, Texas. Thanks for letting me be here again. A quick update. I think 2 weeks ago, we reported that we were 2 signatures short, and I was optimistic that on one of them, we did receive that one. So we are currently 1 signature short. That signature, we finally opened communication over the weekend with the last person. We delivered the documents they're reviewing, and he's going to let us know. So didn't want to rush him, but you know, we don't have a yes, but definitely we didn't get a no. So again, optimistic there. I think I shared this earlier. This seemed like a really tall mountain to climb, and if you guys remember, I said, well, you know, we'll give it a whirl, we'll give it a try, and I can tell you that night when I went home, I did not think we were going to be here with this many signatures. And it seems like in the past that, you know, our little Wolf Airport community doesn't seem to agree on everything. And it's been pretty united here. Last night we did receive an email from the Heights. They're here. I know he had some concerns. I met with him today. And I think we worked through those. I'm pretty sure he's going to want to speak, so I don't want to speak for him. And I think that's it. I'm open to any questions.
Well, if we have questions when we get to the agenda item, we'll do that. So for the public hearing, though, we'll just give you an opportunity to share.
Okay,
All right.
it.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Yes, sir. If you could please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Thank you for being here tonight.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I see some familiar faces, neighbor Harry, Tammy, and Bobby, the Chief, good to see you, and my fellow Aggie ran off on us here. John Heights, Patty Heights, we reside at 1007 Hal McLean Road on Wolf Air Park in Residential Block 1. We also own 2 more empty lots on Block 1. We also have an aircraft repair business on the commercial side at 8818 Taxiway 1. I'm going to give you a little history lesson first, if you don't mind. I'll try to make it quick. Dan knows I talk a lot. The City of Manvel annexed the property where Wolf Air Park is in 1973. And unbeknownst to anybody, they only annexed 2/3 of that 99 acres. So not all of the airport is in the city. Myself, I was on the board for 12 years. The other board members had worked to de-annex the airport in the past, about 6 to 7 years ago. We worked with Mayor Davidson, Kyle Young, some of the other board members. We were right on the verge of reaching an agreement to de-annex the airport at that time. Now, Chad and I have a little different remembrance of the conversation that I had with him, but Chad and a new group of board members were on. I was off. Got a lot of spare time on my hands now. It pays about as much as your job without a raise. But I brought this to Chad, and like I said, he recollects something different. But I brought this, hey, we got everything in place to de-annex the airport, and I was told they didn't want to de-annex the airport at that time. Now they're backpedaling and they want to do it. And I understand why. Our community is growing. It's a great little community, a great airport. We love it out there. But it's going to cost them a lot of money if they don't have to follow the city statutes, right? And I understand that. They're in business. They're wanting to get these hangars built up, and we want them too. It's really enhancing our airport by going from 30 hangars to 60 someday. What happened on one of my biggest concerns is the last time, and I think there's only one individual in the room that was involved in this, was a city ordinance that was passed that affected Wolf Air Park greatly. It was the drainage ordinance. And Dan, I hate to throw you under the bus, but he was a part of it. Now I'm going to pull you back out. I think he felt real bad about it after it all happened. Our airport community was considered 100 acres, and the drainage ordinance and whoever else was involved with that, we will never have 100 acres of impervious property out there. If we built every lot at that airport, which there's 204, 207, there's still 46% of that property that will never have anything grown on it. So if you see where I'm going, that ordinance kind of didn't apply to the airport. The problem we all had was we were never brought into the city council. Nobody sent us an email. Nobody sent us a letter to say, hey, we're going to do this. It just happened. And Dan, I'd like to help you out from under the bus now, okay? So those are our concerns. If city council is going to make a decision on our community, it would be great if there was a lot of communication on it. Everybody knew about it. Even this meeting that was postponed a couple weeks ago, all we got was an email from one of the board members that said, hey, going to have a meeting. Come on down to city council if you want. It wasn't really, they weren't specific. We got a bunch of great neighbors out there. Chad has been a blessing from the time he came to our airport several years ago. He's really into doing this. We all want this place to succeed. My concern also about, we don't get a lot of services from the city, and everybody knows that, I'm sure. But Chief ran off. I just wanted to pull him out from under the bus. The police department is Johnny on the spot every time there's a call. And we have calls for cattle on the runway. They come out with a rope and get rid of them. A great bunch of cowboys with guns, okay? The services that we get from the police department have just been, I don't even know how to say how good it is, okay? Just wonderful. So we'd hate to lose that. Now, my wife is a retired county deputy. Yes, I behave myself. The county here, the deputies aren't as plentiful when we need somebody out there. When we need somebody, we need them. You had a discussion a little while ago. When you need a cop, you need a cop. You don't want to wait 2-3 hours and see what happens. So that service we really appreciate, and I'd hate to lose that. Okay, so I could go on with a lot of other stuff. Harry's been on our water system, the water system thing. I think we've worked all that out so that your neighborhood is taken care of. And PUC, we got involved with that and have the water system pretty well up and running. What did I forget? Correct. Animal control. That. Yeah. There he is. Let's not throw the chief under the bus. Animal control is fairly new to the department. They're doing a pretty good job. We can't have cows and sheep and goats and chickens running around on the runway. It's inherently dangerous to have animals loose. And we have a guy out there, a property owner, just doesn't care. He owns property on the airport, but he doesn't, he's not a respectful property owner, okay? Doesn't take care of his animals. We have to call the chief, have his guys and gals come out and take care of it for us, all right? So, is that it? Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for listening. I say, if you're going to make a decision on our community, it'd be great if you involved everybody out there, so it's transparent. Everybody knows what's happening, okay?
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the, yes, sir. If you could please come forward, state your name and address for the record. The floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Tim Freelingsdorf, A10 Starduster, Manvel. I'm a resident. I live out there. And I appreciate you all taking the time. I don't want to bore you with too much details, but I really, really are in favor of the de-annexation. I think the airport has very unique needs that we can self-serve our best. So I do appreciate your consideration.
Great. Thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate your comments. We will do the second. Yes, sir. Name and address, please. And I think you know the routine by now.
Thank you, Mayor and council staff. My name is Bill Hallman, 1103 Howman Lane. I was here a few weeks ago. I'm a board member, but I'm speaking as a resident. Obviously, I'm in favor of de-annexation. Been out there 5 years, and in the 5 years, I don't think I've ever seen such unanimous support for anything since I've been there. We collected signatures from every single property owner, short of one. We had a meeting in my hangar 3 weeks ago, and the sheriff's department sent a deputy out to address public safety concerns. I just really feel like this is our chance, and I'd really like to see it happen, and I'm strongly in favor. Everyone else I've talked to is also strongly in favor. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? We'll do the second call. Third call. All right. We will close this public hearing at 7:31. We will move on to the agenda item number 3. This is consideration and possible action to approve the first of 2 readings of ordinance 2025-0-08. We had a presentation from Dan Johnson, our city manager. We had a few people that spoke. Council, if we'd like to, as Chad, he's been the representative that's requested this, we can ask questions of him, or we can have discussion amongst ourselves. Any comments or questions from council? No? Hearing none. Okay. Do we have a motion for this agenda item?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
To approve,
Approve the ordinance?
approve the ordinance 25508. Is that it? Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve from Councilman Oplager. We have a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for your work. Thank you for speaking here tonight. Dan and Bobby, I believe the next step is that there will be a second reading that will happen on our next agenda. If we could...
And an agreement that's yet to be drafted in case they haven't gotten the one or haven't met the 100%.
Okay.
And I think it sounded like they're very close, but the original discussion was we would have that agreement in place, which the ordinance refers to, but I thought it was going to be workshop today, so the actual agreement wasn't done yet, but we have till the second reading anyway.
Okay, so let's work on that over the next 2 weeks for the second reading. Let's make sure then to have this item just on the regular agenda, just so we can make sure that agreement is squared away. That way, there's also an opportunity if there's any other issues or anything else that comes up from the residents between now and then, we can make sure to address those. Does that work for you, Bobby? Awesome. All right, thank you, everyone. We will now, I know we've been jumping back and forth here a little bit, Council. I think it worked well. I appreciate all of that. We now have our public comment cards. We did have Jason Black here tonight that was going to speak on his MEDC application. He had to step out and head home. We do have one other speaker signed up, and that is Mr. Donald Atkinson. Donald, thank you for being here tonight, a regular attendee of our council meetings. If you could just state your name and address for the record, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Donald Atkinson, 7245 Jordan Road. I am here to help talk on Jason's behalf too, but for the MEDC, for those that's reapplied and stuff, we would like to keep our board intact. I think we have made a lot of progress since I've been on there, which has only been, this is my 4th year, that our group works really well together. Our knowledge base from each one is different, so it's really good to talk to difference in our concerns, and we're finally making progress of what we want to do and see as a vision to help grow the city, getting our plans together to help get more businesses and other places here in town, and we'd just like for y'all to at least take that into consideration and all those who reapplied, reappoint them to their positions so we can keep on in the direction that we're going with the board. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here tonight. Next on the agenda is the city manager update. Dan, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. A couple of things. So the first one I want to let you know is our the funds for the debris cleanup from Tropical Storm Beryl. Those have been obligated from FEMA. So Rosie's been working very closely with them. Obligated meaning they're close to sending us the money, which is fantastic. If just to refresh your memory, that was a 75% situation. So we spent about $640,000 out of our fund balance, and so we'll be getting about $480,000 of that back. So very exciting. So we'll be talking to you probably at that same, mid-year point. What do we want to do with those? Vehicles. The vehicle fund, ironically, has suffered the last 2 years. We've had to use funds for other things. So do we want to go ahead and replenish that? Do we want to look at the TMRS benefits that we had talked about before? So anyway, more to come on that, but it's good news. Other good news, we hit 107 employees. That's the most that we've ever had. Very exciting. And the way that we hit that specifically was today. Bobby, you want to talk about Susan just real quickly? And you're going to do it tomorrow? Okay, cool. So Susan Ballard started today. So that's Bobby's legal assistant. Yes, very, very exciting. So she's, without jumping into it too much and spoiling the party, but she's got experience with Friendswood and HGAC. So it's very, very good to have her on board. Along those same lines, we found an executive assistant for the city manager as well. She'll be starting the first week of March. Very excited about that. She's coming from the city of Pearland. Let's see. Don't forget the planning session, of course, is tomorrow. So if you can be here at noon, we'll have lunch for you. At 1 o'clock, the meeting itself will start. And sort of the general idea is the first 2 hours we kind of have blocked with Jeff Gerber from PGAL to talk about the city center property, the 160 acres. So we want to do that one first, and then probably talk about updates on the city hall expansion. All the directors plan to be there. So hoping to get some really exciting things done. I talked to Kelly today and told her we were, having our 1 year anniversary, so to speak. If you think back a year ago when we had that retreat or planning session, we were coming up with our new core values and mission statement. That's where it all started. So good job. We're going to keep that good work going. We'll also talk about no man's land, and we talked about that a year ago, and it's still a situation. So we can talk about that tomorrow. Let's see. There is an item on your consent agenda that Mr. Bonner had asked me to mention to you. It's about Terra Estates. Terra Estates is in Mud 61. What we're asking for tonight is just the release of the bonds for the water and sewer, the WS&D, water, sewer, and drainage. So we're not releasing the paving bond yet because they're still doing some repairs out there in Terra Estates right now. So just wanted to give that little qualifier. And then I think the last one, I guess a shout out to Ernie Means, our utilities superintendent. Last week, I guess it was maybe Thursday, about middle of the day, we were having our meeting talking about, potential music festivals and everything. And Ernie was in there with us. He got called out about noon, and there was a line break out in front of AutoZone. Well, we had no permits or anything else for any projects going on in AutoZone. What in the world's going on out there? So the first thought was maybe it was CenterPoint as far as those new fiberglass poles that they're putting in. It wasn't. It was actually the contractor for AutoZone trying to make their tie-in, but they didn't have their permits. Lo and behold, that's a 24-inch gravity line, which is a big sanitary sewer line. It's not under pressure, it's gravity, so that's good, but it's very deep. And so they got out there and started assessing the situation. The contractor assured us that they could, that they had all the proper equipment to get out there and get the repairs done. After they got set up and close coordination with Ernie, he shut them down. He said, this is not a safe situation. So that's where I'm getting to. I just wanted to report back that they cordoned off the site, got a hold of an emergency contractor overnight who were there the next morning at about 6 a.m. to get the situation secured. We have had to pump sewer out of this hole because it's an active line. It's for Blue Water Lakes and Valencia. I mean, so it's an active line. So we're keeping track of all of those expenses, and sadly, that's going to go back to the folks that caused it. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up to your attention. If you were wondering what was going on in front of AutoZone, that's what's been happening. So, and again,
I'm just curious, what made it unsafe?
it's very, very deep, and they were trying to use sheet piling, like what you would use, for a dam, and they were just stuck down in there like toothpicks. They weren't secured properly at all. So we've got a trench. The new contractor who has actually taken over the job. Once the owner saw what was going on, they fired their utility contractor and hired the folks. Branch is the group that we're using now. And so they've got an actual trench box like you're supposed to have down in there. And so the site is much more secure. But, a few years ago, our guys would not have maybe had the confidence, I guess, to shut down a contractor, whether it was ours or not. But, hey, this is going on in our city. And, again, back to our core values and, safety. I mean, I've told many of y'all that, too. If y'all see something that is unsafe in the city, you have the authority to shut it down. We'll have to pick up the pieces after the fact, but that's okay. I mean, we'd rather shut it down and cause a little bit of a hiccup in work than somebody get hurt. So that's all I got, Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. And please give our appreciation to Ernie for doing the right thing. So we have the consent agenda here, Council. Any items that you'd like to remove? And if not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to approve from our Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Councilman Hudson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. We already approved agenda items 1, 2, and 3, and now we have the executive session. Council, we can step back to this executive session, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up is the postponement of the executive session and the next 2 agenda items to our next meeting. One of the reasons why is I've heard from people that are interested in applying. They might have already applied, but they were not aware that the application process was open. I take that on me on behalf of the city. I think that there was opportunities throughout the month of January that we could have promoted this opportunity more to people than what we did. With the midst of the holidays and then the winter storm, I think there was some lack of visibility on this opportunity. So that's one of the reasons why we can move forward with certainly stepping into the executive session, then coming out and making the appointments. But I wanted to present that as an option to council to see if you guys would like to postpone it for 2 weeks to see if those people do apply, and then we could step into it. Mayor Pro Tem, we'll go you first, and then we'll go Councilman Obliger.
I actually was going to bring that up also, mainly because I feel like after going through the agenda packet, and again, that may be on me. I didn't know that was going to be something. I know that there was maybe one posting about it. And while I'm in favor for most of the people on our PD&Z and MEDC, I do think that it requires some time for other people to have the opportunity to apply, because I didn't see any new applications other than Larry Akery. And so that to me, well, for one of them, but to me, I feel strongly that I think we should postpone it and give some time so that we can go through and look at who wants to apply for those.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Obliger, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask you, how did we, is that a motion? Or?
Yeah, so what we would do is we'd make a motion to postpone it for 2 weeks till our next meeting. The city, I would then ask of the city if we can make a post about it this week and next week to make sure that we get the word out there so we're fully transparent about this coming up. Just pass along the word. We do have applicants for each position, great applicants for the positions. I just don't ever want the city to receive accusations of we are only trying to keep it for select people because, oh, you only made one post in December. I want to make sure that we're above reproach with that.
How does this affect their terms? Don't they expire March 1st, or is it the end of March?
So they serve until reappointed, so their terms in March will stay the same. My only question is, do you want to forego the requirement for the P&Z members that they have to attend 2 consecutive meetings prior to being considered?
That's a good point.
So I think you had 3 new people apply for 3 or 4 for MEDC. I think some of them are here this evening, and then 1 for P&Z, and for that one, they do have to attend 2 consecutive meetings.
Councilman Lance. Did you have something?
No, I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
So I just want to be, how do I say this? I think that one of the requirements, and I don't know if we've had this discussion in the past, but to be on PD&D, I hear from a lot of business owners, and I feel like MEDC is great. I think we have amazing people on MEDC when it comes to economic development. I think we've seen a lot of progress on it. I really struggle with PD&Z not having enough business owners in Manvel that actually experience going through our process and coming from that point of view. And I have heard from citizens who are like, it is the same people all the time. And so it's time for, we want to see new people is what I'm hearing. So I just wanted to make that's kind of something that I would like to see, is the opportunity for local business owners to be part of PD&Z. That's it. Thank you.
So Tammy, a question for you. The 2 consecutive meetings, is that an ordinance requirement, or where does that requirement come from?
That requirement came from the council. It came years back because that board meets every other Monday, and what was happening was people would get on there for one thing that was important to them, but then not show up to the meeting. So we were having, and Dolores will remember that as well, we were having problems with canceling those meetings because we didn't have quorums. At one time, a couple members even were removed from the board, and that was quite controversial. But again, if we don't have a quorum, that completely slows down development. So those that are on the board have been committed, and showing up for the 2 consecutive meetings is to show people, if you can't come to 2 meetings consecutively, what makes us think you could come consistently?
Or running for council and not being able to stay for the entire meeting.
Shots fired. So that's where it came from. It wasn't ordinance by the council.
I think that's a great requirement. And what I've loved seeing about our PD&Z, Tammy, to your point, is they have been showing up, and it's pretty much been every person has been there each time, and they've been able to move things along, because there's also a shot clock that if we don't get certain things approved or rejected within a amount of time, there's that shot clock. So if we postponed it maybe till our second meeting within March, that would give people an opportunity to be able to come to the 2 consecutive meetings. Then we could have it there. We could make a few posts. We could make sure that we're out there. There's no accusations that we're just trying to pick our hand favorites, that we're transparent throughout the process. And also that way it's fair to everybody involved, and especially to the existing board members. I appreciate that they're here tonight and that their involvement and their service. I think overall they've done a very good job. At times there's been disagreements, but that's a part of living in a community, is you're going to have your disagreements. But I don't want them to have the shadow over them of, oh, you're just there because the mayor wants you there, or you voted for the mayor. I hate hearing that stuff, and that's not true. So I want to make sure that we're very transparent about it. So council, I would say postpone it till, I guess, the 17th would be our next meeting, unless as a body you guys feel like you're ready to make appointments, and then we could step into our executive session.
So it's 2 meetings from now.
It would be 2. It would be 2 meetings from now. That way, starting the beginning of March for the new terms, they hit the ground running in the beginning of March, because it's a March to March term. That way, if anybody specifically for PD&Z wants to attend those 2 meetings, they could attend those 2 meetings. Does that line up schedule-wise there?
Yes, were you talking about 17th of March, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that would give them, they could come on the 24th of February as well as the 10th.
The 10th of February. Okay. And we might still, these people that might be complaining to me very well might not even apply. They just might be the squeaky wheel just to be the squeaky wheel. And we still might have the applicants who have put forth the effort and applied, but as long as we've done our part, I think that's important. So what I'll do is I'll make a motion to postpone the executive session and the next 2 agenda items for the appointments until our March 17th meeting. We can vote for it or against it, and if it fails, we'll then step into executive session. Do I have a second on that motion to postpone?
I'll second.
We have a second from the Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor of postponement? All opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. So we will have these 3 items on our March 17th meeting. And if we're able to line up some social media posts with our public information officer, that would be fantastic. And council, if we can make sure to share those around, that would be great there too. Okay. So that leads us now, looks like we might get out of here before 8 o'clock, y'all. That leads us to mayor and council comments. Do I have any mayor and/or council comments? Nope, hearing none. I will make a motion for us to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion to adjourn passes unanimously 7-0. We will adjourn the meeting at 7:49 PM.